Chapter 54. Little Bun, what are you trying to do? Wang Xuji anxiously grabbed onto her hand. If we wait like this, we can only lose. We have to give it a try. You will die. I won't. Zhu Yao turned around and smiled, as she habitually stroked Wang Xuji's head. Just you wait, little wimp. Hearing this, Wang Xuji suddenly widened his eyes, as though he had heard something shocking, as he stared straight at her. The name in the depths of his heart was on the verge of bursting out. His hand suddenly tightened. You are. Zhu Yao twisted her sword, and the sword hilt in her hand easily knocked onto the back of his neck. He was already a strong arrow in the first place, and he instantly fainted. Chinyi, watch him. Not caring about the three's shocked expressions, she staggered towards the demonic beast. If it was said that she had learned anything in the past 3 years of desperately practicing sword arts with her master, then that would be asking for a beating. Zhu Yao circulated all of her spiritual energy and condensed it onto the sword in her hand. With the support of spiritual energy, the lightning on the sword released an even stronger lightning glow, and it continued to grow until it gathered into a gigantic lightning sword. In a situation like this, any profound mystic arts were useless. She could only face it head-on. Zhu Yao flew up and swung her sword towards the center of the Rai fire beast's spiritual energy. When the purple lightning came into contact with the black flames, sparks instantly flew everywhere, and the flames were forcefully suppressed by a little. Lightning was the nemesis of all demonic beasts. Other than natural lightning beasts, no demonic beast had the ability to restrain lightning. Currently, she could only rely on this to fight to the death. However, that large-scale lightning guiding art earlier had already exhausted too much of her spiritual energy, and she was only using her last bit of strength to hold on. And the closer she got to the demonic beast, the stronger the obstruction. She felt that there was not much spiritual energy left in her body, and her entire body was in intense pain. However, she no longer had the mind to care about it. Even if the blood in her chest was gushing out like a faucet, she knew that she could not retreat. If she took a step back, only death awaited the people behind her. She was not a hero, nor was she a saint. She had no interest in sacrificing herself for others. The reason why she was risking her life was because she really wouldn't die. She didn't know why, but she felt that her previous rebirth wasn't a coincidence. Even if she died this time, she could still come back. Ever since she knew the reason why she came to this world was to fix the bug that was Xiao Yi, she was even more certain of this. Perhaps she didn't have to do this at all, because regardless of whether the demonic beast succeeded in advancing or not, the people here would still die. Once Xiao Yi died, the bug would naturally cease to exist, and the 5 elemental spirits would not be brought to the higher realm by him either. The quest would naturally be completed, and she might even be able to return to her original world. However, Xiao Yi was not the only person here. There was Chun Yi, there was Lu Cha, and especially the child Wang Xuji, whom she had watched grow up from a young age. For her to give up little Wimp's little life for an unclear bug. Forget about Dr. Wang, who had entrusted little Wimp to her. Even if she became a ghost, she would stab herself to death. She could spit on herself to death. She wasn't that much of a jerk. This had nothing to do with morality or justice, nor did it affect the overall situation. This was the most basic conscience of a person, and also her bottom line. She had always been a person without any great ambitions. The reason why she swung her sword was because she was still a human. Even though her spiritual energy was almost completely depleted, boundless fighting spirit surged in Zhu Yao's heart. It was as though a string in her heart had suddenly been plucked, and she had found something that she had never been able to find before. The sword in her hand lost its lightning glow due to the depletion of spiritual energy, and Zhu Yao's figure, which was carrying the man and the sword, was instantly engulfed by the black flames. Even Chen Yi and the others could not help but lower their heads a little. As expected, they were still unable to escape. Suddenly, a cry that resounded through the clouds resounded through the sky. A white lightning bolt suddenly shot out from the black flames and directly charged towards the sky above. Then it gathered into a gigantic phoenix, and its body was surrounded by lightning glow. As though it was a divine bird that was directly formed from lightning, It possessed a demonic aura that could sweep away everything. This is... Chun-Yi looked dumbfoundedly at this phoenix that had suddenly appeared. Its sword intent. Xiao-Yi raised his head with a strange expression and looked at that divine phoenix whose aura was like a flood. She had an epiphany. Sword intent? Chun-Yi was even more shocked. Wasn't sword intent supposed to be a sword? Why was it in the shape of a phoenix? The phoenix in the sky spread open its wings that were flashing with lightning glow and swooped down from the sky, straight towards the demonic beast on the ground. The black flames that were unable to advance even an inch earlier were swept away by the lightning glow and were instantly extinguished. The demonic beast in the middle had long been pressed onto the ground by the phoenix's aura, and it was unable to move. With a swipe of the phoenix's sharp claws, in an instant, the rise-fire beast that had forcefully evolved was torn into pieces. The phoenix once again cried out towards the sky, and only then did its white figure slowly disappear. The rampaging spiritual energy instantly stopped as well, and only then did Zhu Yao, whose entire body was covered in blood, stand next to the pile of demonic beast flesh. Zhu Yao, who was finally unable to hold on any longer, breathed heavily. Her mouth and body were filled with unstoppable blood. The jade pendant on her neck, which had been flashing with a gentle white light, slowly returned to its original color as well. This was the first time she knew that a person could still bleed to such an extent. Clearly, she felt that she was about to run out of blood, yet there was still blood that continued to gush out. Her figure swayed for a moment, and then she fell onto the ground. Chun-Yi and the rest reacted as well, and hurriedly rushed over. Reaching out his hands, he held on to her, preventing her from facing the fate of landing on the ground. After a careful inspection, he realized that her meridians were seemingly completely broken, and even her Azoth core was in danger of shattering. Can you still hold on? Junior Marshal Sister Steamed Bun. Zhu Yao almost spat out a mouthful of blood on his face. Steamed Bun, your sister. Seeing that he himself could not hold on any longer, yet he was still transferring spiritual energy to her, she endured it. Zhu Yao was already on her last breath, and her entire body was covered in blood. The expressions of the three people, however, were all different. Chun-Yi was shocked. This little junior marshal sister was the weakest person in their group, with the cultivation of an early-stage Azoth core. In the beginning, he was a little worried that she would drag everyone down, but he never expected that the one who saved him in the end was actually her. Xiao-Yi was silent. Recalling that lightning phoenix earlier, he clenched the fists by his side. He had always thought that the so-called sword intent was merely another sharp sword in the hearts of practitioners. Yet, he never expected that sword intent would actually have such a form as well. Lu Cha, however, had completely not recovered from the fright earlier, and her entire body was still trembling. As for Wang Xiujiamen, he was still unconscious and had not woken up. Zhu Yao silently reflected on her earlier strike and wondered if she was a little too ruthless. Senior Marshal Uncle Xiao, just how did you guys offend this demonic beast? Seeing that Zhu Yao had recovered a little, only then did Chun-Yi recall the cause of this matter. These two demonic beasts were a pair of mother and son. The higher the rank of a demonic beast, the harder it was to reproduce. A demonic beast like the Rai-Fire beast would not easily leave its young. And if they did not encounter something special, it was impossible for them to risk their lives. A hint of panic flashed past Xiao Yi's expression in an instant, and then he immediately said with a stern expression, "We had indeed discovered the see-through leaf grass over there, and in a moment of carelessness, we startled the mother beast. Junior Marshal Nephew Zhao and I were not its match, and were just planning to retreat. However, we did not expect that you guys had already killed the young. Most probably, the mother beast's ferocious nature was triggered because of this." Chun-Yi frowned. "You really didn't discover anything else?" "Indeed we didn't." Xiao-Yi firmly shook his head. Zhu Yao, however, felt a little cold in her heart. She was 100% sure that he had already obtained the heavenly pulse lotus. Otherwise, that demonic beast would have nothing better to do than to chase after the three of them, and even let its young beast follow Lu Cha. She had not forgotten that young beast had appeared together with Lu Cha. Looking at Xiao Yi's expression, He was not going to take out the heavenly pulse lotus no matter what. Seeing that he could not get an answer from his interrogation, Chunyi did not persist any further. He looked a little sorrowfully at the corpses of his fellow sect members not far away. This secret realm was filled with dangers, and even the outer perimeter had 7th-ranked demonic beasts. I never expected that we would encounter 2 high-ranked demonic beasts the moment we entered the secret realm. He turned to look at the corpses of the 2 demonic beasts. It seems like we have to be even more careful. Zhu Yao nodded in agreement. Fortunately, the other one was a young beast if... Wait a minute! A terrifying thought surfaced in Zhu Yao's mind, and her expression instantly paled. Trembling, she pointed at the corpses of the 2 demonic beasts. Earlier, we killed a young beast and a mother beast. Then, where's its father? Roared out as though answering her question. A familiar roar resounded in the forest. The faces of the other 3 instantly paled as well. The hell, are you done yet? Chun-Yi, bring Wang Shuji to the exit. Zhu Yao solemnly said. Xiao-Yi Lu-Cha, the 2 of you head to the left, I'll head to the right. We'll split into 3 run. Xiao-Yi nodded. Seemingly without any hesitation, he pulled Lu-Cha, who was still in a daze, and flew towards the left with his sword. They no longer had any fighting strength left. If another demonic beast came, forget about a 7th-ranked. Even if it was a 4th-ranked demonic beast, they would not have the strength to fight back. Splitting up and running was their only chance of survival. Junior Martial Sister Bun then knew. Chun-Yi had already summoned his sword as well, and looked a little hesitantly at the heavily injured Zhu Yao. However, Zhu Yao did not even turn her head back. As she summoned her own sword, she sternly said, "Leave the secret realm immediately. No matter what happens, do not turn back." Chun-Yi sighed, before carrying the unconscious Wang Shuji up, and flew towards the exit. Seemingly at the same time, Zhu Yao flew towards the other direction with her sword as well. The sword intent she forcefully executed earlier had seemingly damaged her meridians beyond recognition. Forcefully circulating her spiritual energy once again, her wounds burst open, and fresh red blood flowed out endlessly. Currently, she could only hope that the demonic beast's intelligence was not up to standard. She intentionally had everyone split up. Firstly, it was to change the demonic beast's target, and secondly, Lu-Cha was not injured. As long as she did not seek death, she could easily escape with her sword. Furthermore, Chun-Yi and Wang Shuji were heading towards the exit of the secret realm. The distance was not far, and the demonic beast would not be able to leave the secret realm. And she was alone, a small target. The demonic beast should not only be chasing after her. Roar the hell! It really chased after her. Zhu Yao turned to look at the demonic beast that was 3 stories tall behind her. As it chased after her, dust flew everywhere. At that moment, she wanted to light 100 candles for her luck. Chapter 55. Zhu Yao instantly felt like crying. You know what? However, she could not stop. Stopping was equivalent to giving up on the chance of survival. She had risked her life to kill that demonic beast, and had yet to obtain the wood spirit. She definitely could not die now. However, her stamina was already beginning to sing the opposite tune. The speed of her flying sword was becoming slower as well, and she could no longer squeeze out any more spiritual energy from her body. She instantly fell from the sky, and heavily crashed onto the ground. However, she no longer had the strength to climb back up, and even her consciousness was beginning to blur. That huge demonic beast had already charged out of the forest, and with its bloody mouth wide open, it sprinted towards her. Suddenly, the jade pendant on Zhu Yao's chest emitted out a dazzling white light. Just when the demonic beast was about to swallow her whole, she faintly saw a white figure blocking in front of her. With just a casual raise of his hand, he grabbed onto that crazy demonic beast. Crackling lightning bolts resounded in the surroundings, and with a wave of his hand, he threw it out. The demonic beast heavily landed on the ground, and no longer had any signs of life. Zhu Yao tried her best to see who the person in front of her was, but her eyelids grew heavier. She could only hear that person's deep sigh, and then she sank into darkness. Looking at his disciple who had already fainted, Yu Yan's frown instantly deepened. Lifting up his stupid disciple who had already turned into a bloody person, He could not help but sigh again. Reaching out his hand to check her pulse, he then looked at her dantian, and his frown could no longer be relaxed. All the meridians in her body were broken, and her spiritual energy was dried up. Even her Azoth core was on the verge of collapse. This stupid disciple of his really could not help but stare at her for even a moment. Carrying the person on the ground, he turned and walked towards a nearby cave. The demonic beast in the cave smelled a stranger's scent. Oh! It leapt out majestically. A certain master did not look sideways, as he released the pressure from his entire body, frightening that demonic beast to the point of meowing and lying on the ground. It obediently gave up the cave and hid with its tail between its legs. A certain master who had forcefully taken over the territory placed his stupid disciple on a pile of hay in the cave and then sat cross-legged behind her. Like a hard-working little bee, he began to diligently repair his disciple's broken meridians. Logically speaking, when her meridians were broken like Zhu Yao's, even if she could be saved, she could no longer cultivate. However, her master was Yu Yan, as the #1 person in the immortal cultivation world. If he couldn't even save his disciple, then he would have wasted all his years of cultivation. Yu Yan closed his eyes and summoned his own sword intent. In an instant, a white dragon circled around his body, and after circling a few rounds, it slowly circled around Zhu Yao, who was in front of him. The white light on his body grew even brighter, and under the circling of the white dragon, the injuries on Zhu Yao's body were disappearing at a speed visible to the naked eye. 10 days passed like this. When Zhu Yao woke up, she realized that the injuries on her body had completely disappeared, and even her spiritual energy had recovered. She was sitting in a huge cave, and she was the only one in the surroundings. Not far from the cave, there was a demonic beast that looked like a tiger, but had a pair of wings. It was whimpering. That was actually an 8th-order demonic beast. Zhu Yao was so frightened that she almost cried out, and when that demonic beast saw her sitting up, it seemed to have received an even greater fright. With a poochie sound, it scurried into the bushes at the side, as if it was trying its best to hide itself. It desperately stuffed its huge body into the bushes, only revealing its round head and blinking its large eyes, looking at her with a face full of fear. What kind of situation was this? Zhu Yao's expression darkened. Earlier, she was being chased by a 7th-order demonic beast and had to flee for her life. Why was it a mighty 8th-order demonic beast, scared to such an extent? Could it be that the higher the rank of a demonic beast, the lower its intelligence? Zhu Yao shook her head and recalled the white figure she saw before she fainted. Why did she feel that her master had been here before? After carefully sensing for a moment, there seemed to still be lightning spiritual energy that had yet to disperse in the cave, and it was extremely familiar. "Master," she probingly called out. There was no response for a long while. She patted on her chest and smiled at her own naivety. I knew it. How could her master possibly follow her in the dark? As expected, I was thinking too much. What is it? Her smile instantly stiffened on her face. Master, you're Chow Chow, right? She looked around, yet she could not see that figure. Master, where are you? She could see the bottom of this cave with a single glance, and his figure was basically nowhere to be seen. Seeing that she had already begun to ransack that demonic beast's old nest, the ice-cold voice once again spoke up. Lower your head. Zhu Yao lowered her head, only to see the white jade pendant her master had given her before she left. It was currently emitting out a dazzling light, and a miniature white figure of her master was currently emerging from the pendant, floating about a meter in front of her. It was Yu Yan. Master. Zhu Yao suddenly widened her eyes and looked at this miniature version of her master. How did you turn into this? What you're seeing right now is merely a portion of my primordial spirit. Yu Yan explained. Practitioners of Azoth stage and above are unable to enter Tasioluk, so I can only place my divine sense in this jade pendant in order to enter this secret realm. Then why did he have to turn into such a miniature version? Although it's only a portion of my divine sense, I'm still at the demigod stage after all. If I were to appear with my original form, I would definitely be detected by the formation. Only in this form can I not be discovered. Master, why did you come here? Hearing her mention this, Yuyan coldly glanced at her and instantly began his teaching mode. Your Azoth core is damaged, and your meridians are completely severed. Your master has never taught you that when fighting against demonic beasts, you must fight with your life on the line. Zhu Yao obediently lowered her head. If I hadn't appeared, you would most likely have lost your life here. Was master the one who healed my injuries? Yu Yan did not reply, and simply looked at her even more sternly. Zhu Yao smiled, and instantly felt warmth in her heart. Having a master who liked to follow his disciple wasn't a bad thing after all. Thank you, master. Yu Yan was startled, yet he still kept a straight face. Stupid. Yes, my king. In the future, think thrice before you act. Yes, my king. Acting within your means is the way of cultivation. No problem, my king. Also, is there anything else, my king? Your Azoth core has yet to recover. Do not easily make a move in the next few days. Understood, my king. Shut up. Yes, my king. No problem, my king. That after a few days of recuperation, Zhu Yao's injuries were completely healed. Yu Yan had made up his mind to train her, and along the way, he purposely chose places with demonic beasts. In the beginning, Zhu Yao had already thought of running away the moment she saw a demonic beast, but now, she had already numbly pulled out her sword and charged out to slash while looking for abuse. Zhu Yao did not have much battle experience in the first place, so she was basically the one who was completely oppressed. However, with Yu Yan by her side, other than suffering some light injuries, her life was not in danger. Over time, his swordsmanship was honed to a very proficient level. She could even retract and release her sword intent as she pleased. Her sword intent was in the form of a lightning phoenix. Usually, when she summoned it, it would only be a tiny one, not much bigger than a pigeon. It no longer appeared as huge as the first time she used it. Her master said that sword intent was the embodiment of her cultivation. When she comprehended sword intent, whatever her heart desired, her sword intent would then transform into the most similar form. Back then, she simply wanted to snatch a sliver of life from the demonic beast's claws. So her sword intent was in the form of a phoenix rising from the ashes. She had seen her master's sword intent before as well. It was in the form of a white dragon. Zhu Yao silently pondered. Could it be that her master had wanted to become an emperor back then, which was why he had a dragon-shaped sword intent? She silently recalled how he looked when he sat on the dragon throne, and decided to forget about it. Evidently the style wasn't right. However, a dragon and a phoenix, as expected of master and disciple, they were rather compatible. Just thinking about it made her a little excited. With sword intent, Zhu Yao's sword techniques improved greatly. In the beginning, she could barely deal with 4th and 5th ranked demonic beasts. Later on, with her own strength, she could even deal with a 6th ranked demonic beast. Zhu Yao raised her longsword. She had defeated a 6th ranked demonic beast. Yet, her body was already as tired as a dog, and not a single drop of her spiritual energy was left. She sat on the ground and panted heavily. She was completely unable to move. A certain master popped out half of his body from the pearl in front of her chest, and a hint of satisfaction surfaced on his ice-cold face. This time, it's 15 minutes faster than the previous time. However, that strike earlier, you could have been even faster. Master. A hint of awkwardness flashed past Zhu Yao's face, and she really wanted to say something. Yu Yan, however, continued. Demonic beasts that are unable to transform usually have larger bodies, so their movements will be a little slower. You have to win with speed. That's not. Your control over your spiritual energy is insufficient, and your grasp over sword intent is still lacking. You have more than enough offense but insufficient defense. I'm saying, you have to train more, you cannot slack off. Master. What is it? A certain master finally noticed that his stupid disciple's tone wasn't right. Zhu Yao's expression darkened. She pointed at his position, and then at her own chest. Can you let go of my chest first? It's true that you're hiding in the jade pendant, but what's the meaning of designing the jade pendant as a necklace? And master, if you want to come out, then come out. Why did you only come out halfway? This déjà vu that seemed to have suddenly squeezed out from her chest Isn't that a little too lacking in moral integrity? P.S. Where's your hand right now, hey? Chest. Yu Yan tilted his head and subconsciously looked around. The hell, although she was flat-chested, it wasn't to the point where she couldn't find it, right? You're going to hurt me by looking everywhere, all right? Don't think that just because you're my master, I won't dare to beat you up. Yu Yan looked at the person in front of him, who was instantly enveloped by a low pressure. What was up with his disciple this time? Why did he faintly sense killing intent? Yu Yan was even more confused, and in the end, he concluded that his disciple was being stupid again. Fortunately, he could tell that his disciple seemed to be dissatisfied with his current position. Although he did not understand the reason, he still floated out in one piece, and slowly turned into his normal size. With a wave of his hand, he formed a few hand seals, and set up a concealment formation next to his disciple. Then he sat down next to her, and began to protect her. Seeing that she had recovered a little, he finally felt at ease. After sizing her up, his brows once again deeply furrowed. Take off your clothes. Chapter 56. Take off your clothes. Yu Yan repeated. Zhu Yao reflexively hugged her chest, and stared at the person in front of her with widened eyes. What happened to the promise of being each other's besties? Master, this isn't good, right? Disciple sells her body, not her skills. Pooey, I'm a pure lady. Yu Yan ignored her stupid actions, silently took out a bracelet, and passed it over. Change into this. She hesitantly took it, and realized it was a storage bracelet. The moment she put it on, it automatically shrunk to the size of her wrist. She used her divine sense to inspect it, and found that the space inside was huge. Her own storage pouch was completely incomparable to it. After carefully inspecting the things inside, other than a few normal talismans, there were quite a few women's clothes. It seemed like they had been prepared a long time ago. In these few days, Zhu Yao only cared about killing monsters to gain experience, and basically did not take good care of herself. The white sect uniform she was wearing had long been torn with a few holes. Although she could use the dirt removal art to wash it clean, the holes could not be mended. So he wanted her to change her clothes. He should have said so earlier. She thought her master had some impure and unhealthy thoughts towards her. Zhu Yao covered up with a few fake coughs, and took out the clothes inside. Only then did she realize how well prepared he was. Both the inner and outer clothes were complete, and even the styles and colors were not the same, as expected of a good master. Thank you, master. After thanking him straightforwardly, Zhu Yao took off the outer clothes that had long been torn with a few holes, and began to change her equipment. Zhu Yao had never been a meticulous person, and adding that she did not treat her master as an outsider, she took off the inner clothes as well. Although there was still an inner shirt inside, the inner clothes of a woman had always been light, and would always faintly reveal something that should not be revealed. Yu Yan's expression stiffened. Reflexively, he turned his head to look elsewhere, and a strange warmth rose from his face. Even he did not understand why. Logically speaking, the person in front of him was his stupid disciple, so it was only right for him to take care of her. However, why did he feel that now was the time to avoid her? Done. Zhu Yao patted the new clothes on her body, and fiercely showed off her beauty. As expected, it was better to wear different clothes. Things like a uniform, there was completely no sense of beauty. Amen. Yu Yan responded. He silently picked up the school uniform that she despised from the ground, smoothed out the creases on it, and found the damaged areas. Then, he took out a needle and thread. Zhu Yao instantly felt that this scene was too illusory. He even brought a needle and thread with him when he went out. Does your master know that you are such a good wife? Master was worthy of being called a life expert. In less than a quarter of an hour, the holes in his clothes had disappeared. Zhu Yao received it, and carefully looked at the places that had been sewn up. She could not see any traces at all. She couldn't help but wonder if her master had spent all his time improving his life skills in the past 10,000 years. That was why he hadn't been able to accept any disciples. Keeping the school uniform, Zhu Yao suddenly realized that other than the clothes, there were a few unrelated cloth strips inside the storage bracelet. They looked a little familiar, so she casually took them out. Master, what is this? It was long and square, emitting a faint silver light. Yu Yan raised his head and glanced at her. Back then you used the leftovers. Later, I changed the fabric and put it inside. Zhu Yao stroked the smooth surface of the cloth, and suddenly had a bad premonition. The rest? What's left? Menstrual tape, he said sternly. That's what you get for asking such nonsense. After separating from everyone, Zhu Yao was a little worried that she would not be able to find the wood spirit, because she did not catch up with Xiao Yi. After thinking for a moment, the wood spirit was at the center of the secret realm, and she currently had her master by her side. Even if she were to encounter a powerful demonic beast, she would be able to escape unscathed. Instead, she would be able to find the ancient ruin where the wood spirit was placed even faster. However, she never expected that the map of Tasioluk would be this big. When she entered, she thought that the endless forest was everything. But after walking out of the forest, a sea actually appeared in front of her. And it was the kind that stretched as far as the eye could see. In a sea like this, how was she going to find the ruins? Zhu Yao felt a faint sadness, however. She could faintly hear a singing voice coming from not far away. The voice was very beautiful, as though it was crying and complaining, as though it was a sorrowful whisper by a lover's ear. She could not help but feel heartache as well. It's the singing of a shark man. The jade pendant in front of Zhu Yao's chest emitted out a white light, and Yu Yan's cold voice sounded. The singing of a shark man has the effect of captivating one's mind. Do not fall too deeply into it. When Zhu Yao heard this, she immediately regained her senses and broke away from the singing voice. She looked around, and as expected, on a rock not far away, she saw 4 to 5 figures. From afar, they looked like humans, yet they unexpectedly had a fishtail, and their blue long hair drooped down to the ground. She immediately recalled the mermaids in the fairy tales, and was filled with curiosity. Carrying a little excitement, she took 2 steps forward. Just as she was about to sneak a peek and escape, the group of sharkmen seemed to have sensed something, and turned their heads in unison. Zhu Yao, who clearly saw the appearance of the sharkmen, instantly felt her worldview shattering to the ground. Below the sharkman's head, everything was still considered normal, but that face was simply frightening. Its 2 pitch-black eyes looked as though they were 2 stones embedded on its face. The eyeballs were very large, yet they did not have any sclera. They did not have a straight nose bridge, and their noses looked like 2 holes that were poked out from their faces. That mouth, even more so, occupied half of their entire face. The corners of their lips split apart, and directly reached the back of their ears. When they slightly opened their mouths, sharp teeth that were like steel nails were revealed, and they looked extremely terrifying. Zhu Yao was stunned on the spot, as though she had heard the sound of a fairy tale shattering. Return, my mermaids! Sensing an intruder, the sharkmen on the rocks let out threatening roars in unison. Opening their mouths, they revealed a mouthful of sharp teeth, as though they were about to pounce over in the next moment. Only then did Zhu Yao understand just how unwise her approach was. Sharkmen were 8th-ranked demonic beasts. Any one of them here was already enough to make her suffer, let alone a group of them. As expected, if you don't court death, you won't die. Just as she was about to retreat, the leading sharkman suddenly blanked. After carefully sniffing her surroundings, he suddenly retracted his killing intent. Which clan are you from? Ah. Zhu Yao was stunned. What did he mean? Seeing that she did not reply, the sharkman continued to ask. Just which clan are you from? Sharkman. I'm just passing by. Lugua. I've never heard of this clan. The sharkman was startled for a moment, and then, he said with a stern look. You've crossed the boundary, do you know that? Crossed the boundary? Here. This is the territory of us, Sharkmen of the Sea of Motion clan, understand? Here. He forcefully pointed to a rock at the side that was filled with shells. This place has already been marked by us. If you want to hunt, go somewhere else. After saying that, the group of sharkmen behind him nodded in agreement. Zhu Yao was a little embarrassed. It seemed like this group of sharkmen had treated her as one of them. But, just where did they see it from? Her style was clearly different from theirs, alright? Sorry I'm lost. Zhu Yao tried to reply. If she could avoid a fierce battle, There was no harm in pretending to be a shark man. Lost. The sharkman's expression was instantly filled with contempt, as he looked at her as though he was looking at an idiot. Just who sent you here? Why would you even get lost here? I was sent by a monkey. Monkey? Is that the name of your leader? The sharkman looked at her with even more contempt. Are the people in your clan all as stupid as you? You're the stupid one. Your entire family is stupid. Forget it. That person sized her up, and suddenly his eyes flashed. Patting on his chest, he changed into a righteous expression. Seeing that we're of the same clan, I'll send you back. I'm called Fishy, the clan leader of the Sea of Motion clan. Ho, how can I accept that? She could not wait to run. So how could she bring a fish with her? There's no need to be courteous. The sharkman placed his hands on his hips. You're so stupid. I'm afraid you won't be able to return even after 3 days. There's really no need. Don't worry, I'm very familiar with this area. There's no need. I said I'll send you back. There's really no need. Are you going to send me back or not? All right, I'll send you back. You can't force me to do something like that. The hot-blooded fishes, these days are too hard to please. Seeing that she had given in, the sharkman was finally satisfied. Patting his fish tail, he moved over and reached out his hand to hold onto Zhu Yao's shoulders, looking as though they were good brothers. Speak then, where do you live? Zhu Yao hesitated for a moment and suddenly thought of a plan. Why don't she let him bring her to that ancient ruin? After all, no one understood the terrain of this secret realm better than demonic beasts. I don't know what you call that place either. It's just that there's a very ancient palace there. It's very big inside, and the spiritual energy is very abundant as well. Oh right, there's a very strong barrier outside. Normal people are unable to approach it. After hearing her words, the sharkman's expression was a little strange. Looking at her from head to toe, his long and thin fangs creaked a few times. Are you sure you live there? Zhu Yao felt joyous in her heart. As expected, he knew about it, but she could not let him be suspicious. We have always lived in the vicinity, but the clan leader does not allow us to casually go out. This is my first time out, so I got lost. Fishy stared at her for a moment, before dispelling his doubts. He lightly said, Why would you live in such a damned place? I heard that it's close to the severed lands, and if you're swept into it, your soul will scatter. Zhu Yao could only nod with a smile. All right then, seeing that this old man is in a good mood, I'll send you back today. However, let me make this clear first. I will only send you to the vicinity. I will not go near the severed lands. Thank you, big brother Fishy. Zhu Yao immediately nodded. Fishy greeted the other sharkmen, and then signaled Zhu Yao to leave. Wait a minute, where are you going? Zhu Yao had just taken a step out, when she was pulled back by him. Pointing to the boundless ocean in front of them, he said, This way. After saying that, he jumped into the ocean with a plop. Take the water route. Zhu Yao. Chapter 57. Hurry up, didn't you want to go back? The mermaid saw that she had been walking around the seaside for a long time, and couldn't help but urge. Zhu Yao became even more flustered. It's over, it's over. This time I'm dead for sure. I wonder if I can tell him that I don't know how to play games? Pooey, which merman doesn't know how to swim? Water-repelling spell. A cold voice suddenly sounded in his ears. It was Master. Her flustered heart immediately calmed down. That's right, she could use the water-repelling spell. That way, she could be in the water just like on land. Zhu Yao immediately cast a water avoidance incantation on herself, and her entire body was immediately surrounded by a transparent bubble. When she walked into the water, the current automatically bypassed her. The sharkman stared at her for a moment before saying in disdain, Why do you like the ugly looks of humans so much? You don't even want to change back into the water? Although mermaids were born with the ability to transform, because they lived in the water all year round, they usually did not like to transform into human form. Ho, my hobby is a little special. Zhu Yao could only smile along. Up to you. Fishy waved its hand indifferently. It swayed its tail and swam towards the depths of the water. Zhu Yao hurriedly followed behind. They walked for a while until they could no longer see any other merfolk on the shore. Then, Fishy let out a deep breath. stretched its body, and began to complain. I can finally rest for a while. This old man has been guarding the shore for a few days, and I'm about to become dried fish. So he was just slacking off. No wonder he was so eager to send her home. I wonder what Big Brother Fishy is waiting for. When Fishy saw that she was interested, it also started to talk. I don't know where those fellows heard the news from, but they said that there would be cultivators passing by these few days. Originally, they wanted to catch 1 or 2 of them to satisfy their curiosity, but it's a pity that after a few days, they didn't even see the shadow of a ghost. He seemed to have thought of something and swallowed his saliva. I heard that the taste of human cultivators is delicious. The delicious human cultivator. Fortunately, he was blind and thought that she was one of his kind. Fishy turned around to look at him, and a trace of sympathy appeared on its face. You don't even have a single bone in your body. I reckon that you'll run away the moment you see a human cultivator. If it weren't for the beautiful veil on your body, I wouldn't even want to admit that you're one of my kind. Xiaosha. Zhu Yao was startled for a moment. She didn't have anything like that on her. She only had a few clothes, and he suddenly remembered the sanitary pads in his storage bracelet. "K, big brother, you really have a heavy taste. You don't have to be discouraged." Fishy saw that she was a little down and consoled her. "Although you're a little unlucky and didn't reincarnate well, you still have a chance to advance if you work hard." It turned out that he thought she was a congenitally deficient rank 6 mermaid. Mermaids and mermaids were born to be rank 8. It seemed that she was extremely unlucky, but you have to change your strange hobby. Which mermaid doesn't like a strong and beautiful fishtail? Yet you like to become this ugly. If this goes on, you won't be able to find a wife. I'm a woman. I don't need to find a wife. It was one thing to recognize the wrong race, but why the hell did he recognize the wrong gender? The fish was stunned, as though it had heard something unbelievable. In an instant, it widened its eyes and stared straight at her chest. Damn, soup dumplings are also dumplings. Was there a need to not be able to tell? You. As though it had finally confirmed it, the fish pointed at her in shock, and was momentarily at a loss of what to do. That dark brown fish tail was turning red at a strange speed. In less than a moment, the steamed fish became braised. Why didn't you say so earlier? The fish took a step back, and its arrogant expression, just now instantly transformed into that of a bullied wife. It lowered its head and carefully peeked at her. Was it so strange that she was a woman? Why are you being so shy? The image of a domineering CEO turning into a petite wife was horrifying. It was said that there were very few female mermaids and mermen in a clan. There would be no more than 10 female mermaids and mermen in a clan. Therefore, they were protected by the entire clan from the moment they were born, and female mermaids and mermen had absolute leadership among mermaids and mermen. Some sharkmen might not even see a single female sharkman in their entire lives. It could be seen just how unbelievable it was to encounter a lone female sharkman. Though Zhu Yao was just an imposter. Ever since Zhu Yao revealed her gender, the fish in the fish began to feel awkward. It no longer dared to speak loudly, and only dared to sneak a few glances at her from the corner of its eyes. Its fish tail maintained its braised fish state throughout the entire process, and it would even cast a shy glance at her from time to time. However, when that expression was placed on a terrifying face, the effect could no longer be described with just the word horrifying. How much further? Zhu Yao had no choice but to change the topic. Her goosebumps were already rising. Stop looking at her with that kind of gaze. If she had known this would happen, she would have quietly become a chestless male fish. The fish in the fish pointed to the front, and replied with a suppressed voice, as though it was afraid that it would scare her. It's right in front. Zhu Yao raised her head to look. In front of her, there was a bright light not far away. It was especially obvious in this dark sea, and she could faintly see the shadows of broken rocks and broken walls within that light. Thank you. I can head over by myself. Zhu Yao hurriedly bid farewell. Will you be fine by yourself? The fish in the fish, however, began to worry a little. There's a very large barrier over there, and there's not even any water in there. It's very dangerous. Zhu Yao shook her head. It's fine. I know the way there. and I can head back by myself. She couldn't always bring a fish along, right? Oh, the fish nodded a little disappointedly. It worriedly looked at her a few times and instructed, "Next time, don't run around randomly, otherwise, you will get lost again. If you get lost again, you can look for me again." Amen. How am I supposed to look for you if I get lost? Be careful on your way back. Amen. Only then did the fish turn around and swim away hesitantly. Suddenly, as though it had recalled something, it ran back and stared at her with its bright eyes. I want to ask you, have you found a companion yet? If you haven't, what do you think of me? What kind of godly development was this? The fish waved his braised fish tail. I'm very strong, and I will definitely protect you. Why did she suddenly get proposed to by a fish out of nowhere? I know how to hunt. No one in our clan can compare to me, but she had abstained from eating. The muslin I weave is the most beautiful amongst all the sharkmen as well. Is it used to make sanitary pads? My ability is very strong as well. I can definitely make you pregnant with 7 to 8 little sharkmen. Why did the topic change to an erotic one, hey? I can also. Before he could even finish, the jade pendant on Zhu Yao's neck instantly emitted out a blinding white light, and it immediately charged towards the fish who was still chattering endlessly. In an instant he was flung away, and before he could even wail, his figure had already disappeared. Master is so violent. A shrunken Yu Yin floated out of the jade pendant and sat on Zhu Yao's shoulder. His face, which was usually cold and indifferent, currently looked as though it was covered with a layer of ice, and his entire body was emitting out cold air. A mere 8th-ranked demonic beast actually dared to covet his disciple? Go, he said. It was a short word, yet it was so cold that it felt as though ice shards were about to fall out. Zhu Yao felt that her master was angry, and his anger was not light either. But why? Rubbing her arm which was about to freeze, Zhu Yao had no choice but to shut her mouth and walk towards the ruins. Whoa, master is so scary. This ancient ruin was very strange. It was located at the bottom of the ocean, yet it seemed to be enveloped by a gigantic formation. Inside the formation, however, was a normal piece of land, and there were even flourishing trees growing within. An ancient palace-like building was located at the center, and it was exactly the same as the one she saw in her dreams. Regarding the matter regarding the wood spirit, Zhu Yao did not tell her master, because it involved too many things. However, Yu Yin had never asked her why she wanted to go to that ancient ruin, and how she knew of such a place. He simply allowed her to move forward according to her wishes, and would help her settle some troubles when the time was right. Having a master like this made Zhu Yao feel at ease, and a little guilty at the same time. However, even she was not sure if everything in that dream would actually happen. So, actually, a large part of the reason why she came back to find the wood spirit was to prove her suspicions. Master, what's the severed lands? That merman had been emphasizing the dangers of the severed lands along the way, and Zhu Yao could not help but pay attention to it. Yu Yin pondered for a moment, before replying. It's most likely the end of this secret realm. Those demonic beasts live here, and unless they ascend, they cannot leave this place. So they cannot casually approach the borders. Then what if we enter? I don't know either. I've never heard of any practitioners entering that place before. Most likely, if they were to enter, they would either return to the cultivation world, or their souls would scatter. So uncertain? It seemed like this place was very dangerous. If possible, she was not willing to approach that place. However, the surroundings of this ruin were very safe. She had investigated it before, and completely did not have the aura of demonic beasts. Just when she was about to enter that palace, she suddenly heard a familiar voice. Senior Marshal Uncle Xiao, just what is this place? This voice belonged to Lu Cha. Zhu Yao looked at the two people who were currently walking over from a short distance away. They were precisely Lu Cha and Xiao Yi, whom she had not seen for a long time. Their bodies were not soaked in the slightest, and they did not look like they had gone through a fierce battle either. It was as though they had suddenly appeared in this place. After taking a closer look, there was still the glow of a formation that had yet to fade away beneath her feet. The hell! So there was a teleportation formation here. Then, Just why in the world did she break her legs walking for so many days? She hated the protagonist's cheat. This should be an ancient ruin, Xiao Yi replied, and pointed to the surrounding buildings. Look at the style of the buildings here. They should only exist in the ancient era. Then there will be a great opportunity here. Lu Cha's eyes instantly shone. The ancient era was the time when gods and devils existed, and it was something that the current cultivation world could not reach. Chapter 58. Then isn't this a blessing in disguise for us? Lu Cha rejoiced for a moment. Suddenly, she seemed to have thought of something as her expression was filled with resentment. Those senior brothers of Weapon Peak are really too much. I told them that senior brother little Fatty Zhao's death had nothing to do with me. Yet they refused to believe me and even attacked us. Seeing the beauty's tearful look, Xiao Yi's heart instantly ached. Little sister Lu, don't be sad. Justice is in the hearts of the people. Why do you have to care about those people who can't tell right from wrong? But, senior brother Zhao's death, I am also very sad. Lu Cha wiped the corner of her eyes. Even though his death has nothing to do with me, we are still fellow disciples after all. Why wouldn't they believe me? Don't cry. I'm still here. I won't let anyone hurt you. Really? Brother Xiao? Of course, my good sister. Looking at the two of them who were leaning against each other, Zhu Yao could not help but want to roll her eyes. From their conversation, it was clear that the two of them were brought here by Weapon Peak disciples seeking revenge. She had long seen Xiao Yi's stud horse, but she never expected that Lu Cha was actually such a disgusting person as well. Little Fatty Zhao was madly in love with her, and even died to save her. It was one thing if she wasn't grateful, but now that she had turned around and pounced into Xiao Yi's embrace, and even said that it had nothing to do with her, Zhu Yao was even a little suspicious. Back then, when she was given her name, did her parents forget to leave out a word in the household register? Watch. Green tea bitch. She immediately started to sympathize with little Fatty Zhao. Hopefully in his next life, he wouldn't be so ignorant of people. Zhu Yao instantly lost the interest to go out and greet the two of them as well, as she walked into the depths of the palace. If she stayed with them, those two weirdos might stab her in the back, and even think that she deserved it. Yu Yan did not have the slightest bit of objection towards her decision. He was a cold person in the first place, and other than his own disciple, he was completely uninterested in anyone else. Using his divine sense to explore, the situation of the entire palace appeared in his mind. However, there seemed to be some kind of barrier set up in the center, which even he could not see clearly. There seems to be something in the innermost part of this hall. Zhu Yao turned to look at her miniature master on her shoulder in shock. Master, are you a human-shaped detector? What was a humanoid detector? This place isn't big. Just use your divine sense and you'll know. How is this not big? Zhu Yao was speechless. Although her divine sense could see a radius of several kilometers, currently, all she could see were walls. How did Master do it? Right, Yu Yan reminded. Zhu Yao turned into the right passage and pondered for a moment. The place her master mentioned should be where the wood spirit resided. Although Xiao Yi had the protagonist's halo, he could not hold up against his master, this human-shaped cheating device. Furthermore, he had arrived earlier than them, so he would definitely be able to snatch it first. Thinking of this, she couldn't help but quicken her pace. The miraculous thing was that they didn't encounter any obstacles along the way, and they walked smoothly to the innermost layer. However, he stopped in front of a huge door. It was a very special door. There was a very strange demon beast carved on it. Moreover, it seemed to be alive as it kept moving around on top of it. The entire door was still glowing with a faint silver light. Although it was a door, there was no gap. There was no handle or anything like that to push it open. Master. Zhu Yao could only look at her own cheating device for help. Yu Yan frowned as he looked at this strange door as well. Pointing at the demon beast on top of it, he said, "An ancient mystic beast is sealed on top of this door. Most probably, the owner of this palace, in order to protect the item inside, intentionally used a formation to trap it here. Then how do we enter?" Zhu Yao was already 100% sure that the wood spirit was inside. This formation is too repetitive, and there are 3,000 small formations within this formation. Yu Yan frowned. If you casually touch it, the mystic beast on top of it will be activated, and it will devour the intruder. Unless there's an incantation to enter, or the owner of this formation, it can only open this door. Then is there no other way? Unless we forcefully dispel this formation. However, this formation is complicated. Dispelling it isn't something that can be done in a day. He turned to look at Zhu Yao. Zhu Yao sighed. She understood her master's meaning. Most probably, by the time they dispel the formation, Xiao Yi and the rest would have already arrived. It seemed like he had no choice but to meet them. That damned main character aura. In any case, she had to wait for Xiao Yi. So Zhu Yao was no longer in a hurry. Sitting in front of the door, she began to carefully inspect the door. The mystic beast on the door looked very strange. It had a green face and sharp fangs. Its body resembled that of a leopard. Yet, there were 2 pairs of long horns on its head. Its claws were like those of an eagle. Yet, it had a tail that was as thick as a snake's. What was even stranger was, it had wings. And there were even 3 pairs of them. Its huge body took up more than half of the door, so it moved very clumsily. Zhu Yao stood in front of the door and stared for exactly 6 hours. Her master, who had been researching formations the entire time, finally looked towards the end of the corridor. He's here. He could hear footsteps from afar. His pig-headed teammate was late. Yo, long time no see. Zhu Yao, who was sitting on the ground, supported her head with a single hand and greeted. The moment Yu Yin realized that they had entered, he had already returned to the jade pendant. Xiao Yi and Lu Cha were stunned. Various interesting expressions surfaced on their faces at the same time. There was awkwardness, shock, and a hint of suppressed unwillingness. Why are you here? Lu Cha asked hesitantly, the smile on her face a little forced. Ape feces. Zhu Yao smiled as she waved her hand, and said especially sincerely, back then, when I was being chased by that demonic beast, I knew that you two would definitely come looking for me. Didn't we still bump into each other in the end? Xiao Yi and Lu Cha's expressions became even more awkward. Zhu Yao had intentionally said that. Little fatty Zhao had died for Lu Cha, and she did not even mind it in the slightest, so why would she think of saving her? They might even be scolding her for being stupid in their hearts. It's good that you're fine. As expected of the main character, Xiao Yi immediately recovered. After sizing Zhu Yao up, he realized that she was clean and tidy, and did not look like she was injured at all. On the other hand, Lu Cha and himself, after entering the palace, they had encountered many traps and formations along the way, and were already in a sorry state. He could not help but feel suspicious. Junior Marshal Niece steamed bun, how did you escape? Your sister's steamed bun. Zhu Yao resisted the urge to roll her eyes, and began to fabricate a half-truth, half-lie story. I don't know either. I was chased by that demonic beast into a cave, and then, I seemed to have stepped on something that looked like a formation. When I woke up, I was already outside this palace. The terrain in this palace is complicated, and I have already been trapped here for more than 10 days. Yet, I can't find a way out. So she had already been here for more than 10 days. It was no wonder she did not look flustered at all. Xiao Yi was at ease. Junior Marshal Niece steamed bun, do you know what's behind this door? Xiao Yi discovered that strange door as well and asked. Zhu Yao shook her head. I don't know either. However, this door is filled with formations, and I can't easily open it. What a strange door. Lu Cha's attention was shifted to the door as well, and with a raise of her hand, she touched the door. Don't touch it. Zhu Yao loudly shouted to stop her. However, it was already too late, as Lu Cha's hand had already touched the door. In an instant, the entire palace began to shake, as though some sort of mechanism had been triggered. That door emitted out an even more blinding light. The mystic beast on the door began to struggle intensely, and it looked like it was about to break out of the door. Zhu Yao instantly had the thought of destroying Lu Cha, as she ruthlessly glared at the culprit. As expected, she was a pig-headed teammate. Lu Cha knew that she was in the wrong, and weakly hid behind Xiao Yi's back. She even looked at her with a wronged expression, as though the one in the wrong was her. Evil green tea bitch. Right now, it was already useless to pursue the responsibility. Zhu Yao could only try her best to stabilize her figure, and anxiously waited for what was about to happen while holding her breath. It would be best if she did not activate that mystic beast. 15 minutes later, the commotion finally stopped. The light on the door slowly dimmed as well, yet nothing happened. The three of them heaved a sigh of relief. At this moment, the mystic beast on the door suddenly stretched out a beast head, as though it had directly leapt out from the door. Opening its bloody mouth, it let out a loud roar. That voice was very sharp, and it was unclear what kind of roar it was. Yet, it carried a heavy sense of malevolence. When it entered their ears, it instantly caused them to feel dizzy. That mystic beast's two bell-like eyes swept past the three of them, and then, it stared at Zhu Yao, who was the closest. Password? Zhu Yao was stunned. Password? What password? Only a ghost would know. Hey. Earlier, she wasn't the one who knocked on the door, so why was he asking her? Seeing that she did not reply for a long time, the beast head approached closer and closer, and its mouth slowly opened. Zhu Yao simply felt a fishy stench assaulting her, and it looked as though it was about to bite her. Password, password, it can't be. Open sesame. Zhu Yao blurted out. As if it would work. The beast head was startled for a moment, and then, it fiercely glared at her. Its mouth instantly closed, and it shrunk back into the door. With a loud bang, that gigantic door slowly opened to the left. The hell, it really worked. This mystic beast couldn't be called Alibaba, right? Before Zhu Yao could even be shocked, a huge gust of wind suddenly blew from within the door, sucking them inside. Zhu Yao was not on guard, and along with Xiao Yi and Lu Cha, she was sucked in by the wind. Her vision was instantly filled with darkness. It was as though she had fallen into a bottomless abyss, and she continued to fall. A gigantic pressure swept towards her, and Zhu Yao instantly felt as though her heart was about to split apart. That pressure was so strong, she was basically unable to resist it. It hurts. Even her consciousness had begun to waver. Calm your mind and protect your dantian. A clear and cold voice sounded. The pressure on her body instantly loosened, and she finally recovered. Master! Zhu Yao immediately circulated her spiritual energy to protect her dantian, and maintained her consciousness. Only after a long while did she heave a sigh of relief. They were currently in a desolate land, and there was only dim light in their surroundings. Xiao Yi and Lu Cha were lying at the side, and most probably, they had fainted from the pressure earlier. Suddenly an aged voice resounded. This old man has waited for so many years, and finally, the fated person has arrived. Chapter 59. After so many years, there's finally someone who can inherit my mantle. Zhu Yao guessed that this should be the owner of this ruin, and the wood spirit should be in his hands. However, he did not have a physical form, so it seemed like he was just a strand of divine sense left behind by the original owner. Master, what should he do now? Let's wait and see. Hearing this, Zhu Yao once again laid back down, and continued to play dead. Old Bai touched his beard, floated over, looked at the ground and suddenly froze. Why are there three? Oh well, Amos frowned, feeling a little awkward. Then choose the one with the best spirit root. He first went to the leftmost Lu Cha's position to take a look, and muttered to himself, dual spirit veins of fire and earth. Although it's a good aptitude, it's not compatible with my cultivation technique. Hence he moved in front of Xiao Yi. For a moment his eyes shone, and his face revealed a hint of joy. Taking over, he inspected the spirit veins, and the joy in his eyes grew even stronger. Metal and wood dual spirit veins, good, good, good. He consecutively said the word good 3 times, and his eyes narrowed into a line. Finally he looked towards Zhu Yao. Zhu Yao felt that this old man was most likely trying to choose a disciple with the best spirit veins, and then pass down his mystic arts and wood spirit to that person. After all, this was how it was portrayed on television. She was very confident in her own aptitude. The only thing she could bring out was her lightning spirit root. Sure enough, the old man also reached out to check her aptitude. As expected, his face also revealed a surprised expression, and he almost blurted out, "It's thunder." The old man glanced at her, and then glanced at Xiao Yi, who was in the middle. Then, he decisively turned around and walked toward Xiao Yi. Let's still choose this child. Fuck me. Was there a need to be so biased? Zhu Yao could not help but jump up. What happened to choosing the best spirit vein? You. Why are you awake? The old man was startled as he looked at Zhu Yao, who had suddenly stood up with a face of disbelief. Impossible. How could a gold core stage cultivator resist that pressure? None of your business. Zhu Yao could not help but roll her eyes. She had a fiery temper in the first place, and she hated manipulations in the dark the most. Furthermore, the other party was just a soul, so he couldn't do anything to her. Didn't you want to choose the one with the best aptitude? Between him and me, which one has better aptitude? Ahem ahem. Lousy coughed awkwardly. Little kid, don't get too excited. Your aptitude is good, but I got along well with this boy, so I decided to pass it on to him. You're already dead, so what's the use of fate? Zhu Yao simply did not believe him. Earlier, when he was testing his spirit veins, she had already felt it. Clearly, he despised her and Wuxia very much. However, he treated Xiaoyi differently. A joyful expression appeared on his face. Unless sizing up the ghost, he asked, "You're not a glass, are you?" Glass? What is glass? The old man was stunned. The more Zhu Yao thought about it, the more she felt it was possible. In other words, you're gay. As soon as he finished speaking, the old man immediately panicked. You are spouting nonsense. Then why are you blushing? His face was so red that even his white beard couldn't cover it. It's hot every day. The old man frantically fanned himself. This old man. How could I possibly take a liking to this brat? She did not say that he had fallen for Xiaoyi either. Does this count as a confession? Zhu Yao was already 100% certain. So he really was a gay man. No wonder he looked down on her and Lu Cha. Little doll. The old man faked a few coughs. This old man can see that your comprehension is not bad. To be able to meet you here, it can be considered fate. Although I can't pass down my cultivation technique to you, I can't pass it on to you. Although I can't pass down my mystic arts to you, I have a few treasures here. How about I give you one? Was this a bribe? She just happened to be unable to find an excuse to obtain the wood spirit. Really? Of course it's real. Then I want the wood spirit. The old man instantly choked and looked at her with even more shock. How did you know that I have this? Don't bother about how I know. Are you going to give it to me or not? The old man's expression turned even uglier as he turned to look at Xiaoyi on the ground. It's not that I'm unwilling to give it to you. It's just that this item is a wood spirit, and it won't easily recognize a master. Furthermore, this wood spirit is beneficial to my disciples' cultivation. If you don't give it to me, I will tell everyone in the cultivation world that you're a glass. The old man instantly softened. Let's talk this through. Gritting his teeth, he turned around and waved his sleeves. The surrounding fog dispersed a little, and 6 wooden boxes appeared in front of him. Little doll, this wood spirit has been with me for many years, yet I'm still unable to tame it. It can be seen that fate is needed to control a spiritual object of this level. There are 6 boxes here, choose one. Before waiting for him to speak, Zhu Yao had already walked over and picked up the one on the right. The old man's face was filled with shock that had yet to recede as he looked at Zhu Yao, who was already calmly holding onto the box. Why you? How did you know which box the wood spirit is in? Zhu Yao's expression darkened as well. It was very hard for her to not recognize it. All right? The hell, because there were only 2 simplified Chinese words floating above that box, wood spirit. And it was the same as the word bug on Xiaoyi's face. It was bolded and had the same design. It was hard for her to not recognize it. All right? Could it be that in this world, there's really someone with such luck? The old man muttered to himself, and the eyes he looked at her with were filled with envy, jealousy, and hatred. Zhu Yao, however, could not be bothered with him, and opened the box. The funny thing was, inside the box, there was only a little sapling, and it was even the kind of sapling that only had 2 leaves. It was currently twisting its white and tender branches, twisting left and right as it danced. Probably because it was suddenly interrupted, that little sapling paused for a moment. It slightly raised its head, and then it let out a soft chick. Chick. Are you a chicken? Zhu Yao was speechless. That little sapling, however, was extremely embarrassed as it closed its two leaves, looking as though it was embarrassed from being caught laughing. "You're a wood spirit?" Zhu Yao asked. Only then did that little sapling slowly open its leaves. It bent its body, and as though it was answering her, it let out another chick. What a spiritual little sapling! Zhu Yao could not help but poke its leaves and praised. "It's pretty cute." When her words fell, a piu-piu sound could be heard, and a little red flower instantly bloomed in the middle of the leaves. Zhu Yao had a subtle feeling. That little sapling, however, used its two leaves to hold on to the little red flower in the middle. With a forceful pull, it plucked the flower from its body, and then handed it over to her. Thank you, chick." Why did she feel that this wood spirit was a little strange? Was it always so friendly to people whom it met for the first time? Zhu Yao twirled the little red flower in her hands with a confused look. The old man, however, suddenly came over and said with a stern look, "Little doll, you have to be careful. This wood spirit isn't as it looks on the surface." Before he could even finish, the little sapling suddenly extended its left leaf, instantly turning into the size of a palm. It then slapped the old man's face with all its might. The old man did not even have the time to cry out, as he was already sent flying dozens of meters away by its slap. The little sapling once again returned to its original size. Twisting its white and tender branches, it acted cute at her. Chick, as though it wasn't the one who sent the old man flying earlier. Zhu Yao. Seeing that she was ignoring it, the little sapling grew anxious. It leaped out of the box and onto the edge of the box. It even used its two leaves to hug onto one of Zhu Yao's fingers and rubbed it against its body. Chick, so cute. Alright, she gave in. Do you want to leave with me? The little sapling bent its body. Chick, for a moment, Zhu Yao was a little troubled. She had already obtained the wood spirit, but where should she put it? After all, spiritual objects could not be placed in her storage bracelet, and the most important thing was to not be discovered by Xiao Yi. Little girl, you can't bring this wood spirit away. Just as she was hesitating, the old man suddenly floated out again. The loving expression on his face instantly disappeared without a trace, and was instead dyed with a hint of darkness. What did the wood spirit signify? The control over all of the wood spiritual energy in the entire world, and all of the spiritual plants. No one would easily hand over a treasure like this to someone else, let alone someone like him who had cultivated for several tens of thousands of years. Although he had long fallen, he was still unwilling to accept it. The old man waved his hand, and the box in Zhu Yao's hands instantly closed, flying into his hands. She knew it wouldn't be this simple. Zhu Yao could not be bothered to waste her breath with him either, as she summoned her own flying sword. I can't be bothered to waste my time with someone like you who doesn't keep his word. Let's do it. The old man might have been a figure when he was alive, and at the very least, he was a practitioner above the nascent soul stage. There was even a possibility that he was a practitioner from the ancient era. However, no matter how strong he was still just a soul right now. She did not believe that she could not defeat him. Ho, you're already so arrogant at such a young age. The old man looked at her with disdain. His entire face began to distort, and even his voice began to turn sinister. You don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. He suddenly formed a hand seal with a single hand, summoning a fire dragon. Just as Zhu Yao was about to block it, the old man turned around and attacked towards the strange door in the sky where they came in from. Zhu Yao was startled. Why did he have to smash her own door? Very quickly, Zhu Yao understood what he was trying to do. That door was still undamaged from his attack, but it was no longer as quiet as before. The mystic beast on the door was currently struggling to come out from within. He was trying to release that mystic beast. Zhu Yao was greatly startled. First, a head came out from the door, and immediately after, a large half of its body came out as well. As it struggled, it was roaring with all its might. Every time it struggled a little, its figure would double in size. Zhu Yao's heart trembled. Even though they were so far away, she could still sense the stench of blood on that mystic beast's body. It could be seen how brutal it was. Finally, that mystic beast broke out of the formation and let out a long roar towards the sky. It was even more ear-piercing than the previous one. Even though she was resisting with all her might, she was still bleeding from her 7 orifices. Zhu Yao puked out a mouthful of blood. She could no longer stand steadily, and once again fell onto the ground. The pain spread throughout her entire body, and she felt that even breathing had become difficult. This pressure was exactly the same as when she first entered this place. She had initially thought that it was released by the old man, but it was actually this mystic beast the entire time. That mystic beast seemed to have discovered her. With a leap of its forelegs, it ran towards her. Chapter 60. In the nick of time, the jade pendant on Zhu Yao's neck emitted out a white light. Yu Yan flew out from within, summoning a spiritual sword to attack the mystic beast. Zhu Yao's body relaxed, and the pressure on her had completely disappeared. Only then did she regain her breath. A soul formation cultivator. Lao Zi's expression changed, and was filled with disbelief. This is impossible. How could a soul formation cultivator appear here? Who are you? Your grandma. Zhu Yao once again picked up her sword. You. The old man was so angry that his face turned even greener. He took a deep breath, as if he was trying his best to suppress his anger. After a while he sneered and said, "Little kid, don't be too proud. Do you think you can beat me just because you have a soul formation cultivator? You will all die here." What do you mean? She suddenly had a bad premonition. The old man coldly snorted. Who do you think this relic belongs to? Zhu Yao blinked. The old man laughed even more arrogantly. This old man only obtained this with spirit by chance. But I didn't expect to be plotted against and killed. My remnant soul just happened to be sucked into this mustard seed space that fell from the upper realm. And by chance, I ended up residing in these ruins. That sealed beast is the master of this world. What did you say? Zhu Yao's heart clenched. That's a mutated beast from the upper realm. Do you think a mere soul formation stage cultivator from the cultivation world can defeat an immortal beast from the upper realm? Master Zhu Yao raised her head to look at the sky. Yet, she could not see the figures of her master and the mystic beast. She could only see the occasional black and white rays of light flashing past. She couldn't help but panic. The demonic beasts in the world needed to reach the 11th rank, which was equivalent to the late stage of deification, and undergo the Ascension Thunder Tribulation before they could reach the immortal realm. It was at least an 11th tier exotic beast. Although under normal circumstances, she didn't think that her master would lose, but now her master only had a part of his divine sense here, and he couldn't use his full strength at all. Ha ha ha. The old man laughed proudly. Little kid, you have no chance of winning against this exotic beast. Zhu Yao's heart tightened. He glared at the old man, who was rejoicing in his misfortune. His anger flared up immediately. Hey, my bad temper. She didn't care what she was holding in her hand, and threw it at him. With a thud, he hit the target. With a thud, the old man was smashed to the ground. I have no chance of winning against it, but it's more than enough to deal with you. Zhu Yao grew anxious. Forgetting all the cultivation techniques and moves, he raised his fist and punched the old man's face. Who told you to jinx it? Who told you to spout nonsense? The old man didn't seem to have expected that the other party would be so tasteless as to throw a punch directly at him. However, he didn't have the chance to retaliate at all. Not long after, he was beaten up by her until his head was full of bumps. Aya, I'm going to die, I'm going to die, I'm going to die. Stop. Stop your sister, you're already dead. I don't mind letting you die a little more thoroughly. Zhu Yao used even more strength to beat him up, and she did not forget to step on his buttocks with her foot, and forcefully grinded it a few times. Damn gay man. Little boy, it hurts, it hurts. How can you do this to an old man? Ouch, gentler, gentler. Tell me, how can we seal that beast again? I don't know either. You don't want to talk, do you? He continued to beat her. His target was her face. Oh, little doll, please be gentler. You're going to die, you're going to die. Are you going to say it? I really don't know. Keep hitting. Even if you beat me to death, I wouldn't know. The old man was really frightened by her simple violence. Hugging his head with both of his hands, he said with a crying face. I'm not good with formations. I only know that the seal on the door will activate the moment it's touched. How would I know a way to remedy it? Then why didn't it break out of the seal when we came in earlier? This I don't know either. The old man felt like crying. After I was trapped in this ruin, I regretted it. Because of the formation on the door, no one can pass through it. I waited for several tens of thousands of years, and countless people came to the door. However, all of them were devoured by that beast. You guys are the first to enter. Zhu Yao recalled Xiao Yi's protagonist Halo. Most likely this old man wasn't lying. Was he really the only one who could enter? Zhu Yao picked up the box that the old man dropped at the side. The wood spirit was still staying inside. Little sapling, I'll bring you away from here. Are you willing to leave with me? Chick, the wood spirit in the box raised its hand and made a cheering gesture. Zhu Yao instantly found a little comfort. Pulling out the sword on the ground, she raised her head and looked towards the sky. If she couldn't beat it, then she would run with her master. In any case, she had already obtained the item. As for face or whatever, what was that? Could it be eaten? Zhu Yao took a big step forward. However, a ray of golden light suddenly appeared next to her. Turning her head to look, she saw Xiao Yi's body was currently emitting out a golden flash. A layer of golden light floated out from his body and slowly condensed into the shape of a sword. The color of that sword was extremely unique. Its entire body was red, as though it was flowing with fresh blood. Metal spirit. The old man who had just crawled up looked at that sword with a shocked expression. This is the metal spirit. But why is it red? This was the metal spirit. Zhu Yao had always known that Xiao Yi was able to cultivate sword intent because he had the metal spirit. However, only now did she know that the metal spirit was also in the shape of a sword. However, Xiao Yi was clearly still unconscious, so why did the metal spirit run out on its own? And it did not seem to be very friendly. The light on the metal spirit's body grew even brighter, and it was still that strange red color. In the first place, it was formed from spiritual energy, and should be the purest existence in the world. However, its current look, not to say that it was pure, it looked more like it had turned into a devil. Chick, the little sapling seemed to have been infected by that red color as well. Its initially white and tender branches were slowly dyed red, and even its green leaves began to change color as well. After shaking for a moment, it actually floated up and flew towards the metal spirit. That metal spirit was summoning it. Little sapling. Zhu Yao called out. However, the wood spirit did not have any reaction at all. As though it was possessed, it continued to float towards the metal spirit. In a moment of desperation, Zhu Yao kept the wood spirit into her own divine sense, isolating it. Only then did the red color on the wood spirit's body fade away, and it returned to its original color. However, after this, it seemed to be extremely tired. Its entire sapling was dim, and it slowly shrunk into a ball. Zhu Yao's instincts told her that there was something wrong with that metal spirit. The metal spirit, which had lost its guiding target, became even more ruthless, and it began to absorb a large amount of metal spiritual energy in the surroundings. In an instant, sand and rocks flew about, the wind blew, and the clouds gathered. Even the sky began to shake. Not good, the formation here is about to break. The old man's figure began to sway a little. With a loud boom, a mystic beast fell from the sky, and its gigantic body was covered in blood. Immediately after, a white figure flew down as well. His clothes were as white as snow, and not a single speck of dust could be seen. Master! Zhu Yao instantly heaved a sigh of relief, and she could not help but step forward to praise him. Yu Yan coldly said, "Leave this place." Zhu Yao's sprinting footsteps paused. After taking a closer look, she realized that her master's aura was very unstable, and even his figure was swaying a little. Master! He was injured. That demonic beast once again stood up, and its entire body was emitting out an even stronger pressure than before. It roared at Yu Yan, and as though it was angered, its pair of blood-red eyes stared straight at him. Just as it was about to pounce over, suddenly, the sky shook and the earth shook. Earlier, it was still a desolate place, but now that the scenery had changed, they were actually still standing in the ruins. The palace was collapsing at a visible speed, and a golden light soared into the sky, breaking through the roof and charging straight into the sky. The metal spiritual energy in the surroundings was gathering towards that pillar of light. The mystic beast was almost swept into the pillar of light, and it could not stand steadily. It had no choice but to jump back and forth, leaving the range of the pillar of light. Metal spirit. Raising his head, he looked at the pillar of light that suddenly appeared, and Yu Yin frowned deeply. Yu Yin formed a seal with a single hand, however, it was not an attack but a flying sword. He still did not turn his head, and simply said with a stern voice that he had never used before. Fly on the sword and leave this place. This sword will protect you until you reach the entrance of the secret realm. Master, the metal spiritual energy has gone out of control. I'm afraid the entire secret realm will be swallowed by it. Yu Yin said, remember to fly out with all your might. Do not hesitate. Then what about Master? He was clearly already injured. Yu Yin finally turned around and reached out his hand to stroke her head. He still had that ice-cold face of his. Hurry and leave. I'm just a strand of divine sense. Even if I disappear, nothing will happen to me. How can you be fine? Do you think I'm a 3-year-old child? Divine sense originated from the main body and was a part of the primordial spirit. If the primordial spirit was missing, how could the main body be fine? If Master isn't leaving, then I won't leave either. Be obedient. Yu Yan's expression sank. Your master will wait for you at Jade Forest Mountain. Bullshit, I'm not a child. Yu Yan still wanted to say something, however. That mystic beast had already charged out of the restriction of the metal spiritual energy and was stubbornly pouncing towards Yu Yan. The hell, this hateful little animal. Hurry and leave. Yu Yan waved his hand, and Zhu Yao was sent several meters away. Turning around, he welcomed the beast. That spiritual sword which was summoned by Yu Yan stopped in front of Zhu Yao. Zhu Yao clenched her fists. She was basically unable to help, however. For her to abandon her master and leave by herself, she was unable to do it. There must be another way. Looking around for a moment, she realized that old man whom she had beaten up into a Sakyamuni was currently carrying Xiao Yi and sneakily moving towards a stone pillar on the right. Damned homo! Zhu Yao picked up a rock and threw it over there. With a paw sound, it struck its target. Io! The old man cried out miserably. Little doll, I have already given you my wood spirit. What else do you want? What are you trying to do by sneaking around? The old man's expression changed, and then immediately returned to normal. Ho ho, little doll, you've misunderstood me. I was simply afraid that this kid would get injured, so I dragged him out. Zhu Yao basically did not believe him. Coldly glaring at him, she pressed her fist down with force, and a cracking sound resounded. Are you going to speak or not? The old man swallowed his saliva, and then honestly replied. He gulped down his saliva before answering honestly. Little doll, you see, the metal spirits won't stop for a while. They will eventually rush out of the mystic realm. When the mystic realm collapses, if the metal spirits don't stop, it might even implicate the entire cultivation world. I think that demigod practitioner has a high cultivation level. If he were to use his full strength, he might be able to stop it. Zhu Yao ruthlessly glared at him. Chapter 61. Zhu Yao was silent for a moment, and then, she tightened her fists. Then what about him? If the mystic realm collapses, what will happen to my master? He's just a wisp of divine sense. As long as you have the chance to leave, you'll definitely find a way to repair it. What if I can't fix it? This might be the lightning tribulation during the ascension. You'll have to suffer a bit. If one's divine sense was incomplete, not only would he suffer, even if he had a lightning spiritual root, he would probably be struck until not even ashes were left. Zhu Yao instantly felt a throbbing pain in her heart. As expected, her master had already made preparations to die, which was why he was in such a hurry to have her leave. Sucking in a deep breath, she suppressed the stifled feeling in her heart. Old man, is there any other way to stop the metal spirit from going out of control? Unless there's a spirit force that can fight against the metal spirit, we only have that soul formation cultivator, who can stop the metal spiritual energy from going berserk. Spiritual energy explosion. Zhu Yao muttered these few words. She really wanted to. Zhu Yao made a decision in her heart. Circulating her spiritual energy, She summoned vines and pulled Lu Cha, who was not far away, over. As expected, this gay man would leave a woman in the lurch. Placing Lu Cha next to Xiao Yi, ignoring the disdain on the old man's face, he removed the jade pendant on his neck, which his master was residing in, and placed it into Lu Cha's pocket. Outside of Taesialuk, there was a formation that prevented cultivators above the Jindan stage from entering, so master could only reside in this jade pendant. As long as this jade pendant left the secret realm, master would naturally be ejected out. Zhu Yao sat in a lotus position, sensing the lightning spiritual energy in the surroundings that she was most familiar with. Now let the spiritual aura riot come even more violently. That's right, she wanted to draw the qi into her body. Ever since she started cultivating, she had only absorbed lightning spiritual energy, without restraint once. And that time, it had directly caused the lightning spiritual energy to go berserk. After that was core formation. Her master only allowed her to absorb the purple lightning. Wasn't it just a spiritual energy riot? A gold spirit is nothing. I can do it too. With a thought from Zhu Yao, all of the lightning spiritual energy in the surroundings, which carried little tails of lightning, began to wildly surge into her body, endlessly. Her meridians once again emitted that familiar pain. Zhu Yao had no choice but to grit her teeth and persevere. She operated her Jindan with all her might, compressing her spiritual energy. For a moment, the originally dusky sky became as dark as night. Lightning flashed and thunder roared between the rolling clouds. Yu Yan immediately noticed his disciple's abnormality. He turned around and looked at his disciple on the ground in shock. What was his stupid disciple trying to do? Stop! Yu Yan repelled that troublesome mystic beast with his sword, and flew towards his disciple. However, he was blocked by layers of lightning spiritual energy, and his clear and cold face was filled with unprecedented fury. Yu Wang, your golden core has just been formed. You can't handle so much lightning spiritual qi. Zhu Yao glanced at her, and could not help but spurt out. Your sisters. Remember your disciple's name. Be obedient. Zhu Yao still ignored him. Her disciple had a rebellious phase as well. Releasing his divine sense, the thunder spiritual energy surged in even more crazily. In an instant, a huge white lightning bolt appeared. Like a giant dragon, it soared into the sky, as if it was going to tear the sky apart. Yu Wang. Yu Yan deeply frowned. He decided to use all the spiritual energy in his body to break through the lightning and forcefully pull his disciple out. The entire secret realm distorted for a moment. Now's the time. The old man's expression turned joyous, and he immediately activated the formation. The formation light shone brightly, and the figures of the three people above began to dissipate. In just an instant they were teleported out. Yu Yan, who was about to rush in to save her, flashed as well. He disappeared from his original spot. Zhu Yao heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately, she managed to make it in time. However, the metal spirit did not stop. She could feel her cultivation rising crazily. However, every time it rose, the pain in her body would increase by a level. The blood vessels in her entire body were splitting apart, and the immense pain was almost to the point where she could no longer feel her four limbs. However, the pain felt as though it came from her divine sense, and was basically unable to subside. She could already see her golden core shattering piece by piece. With her final strand of consciousness, she tried her best to control the lightning spiritual energy, and wrapped it around the metal spirit's pillar of light. Roar! A loud sound resounded. That mystic beast once again scuttled out from an unknown corner. However, it was unable to find its previous opponent, and became even more furious. Hence, it bared its teeth and roared at Zhu Yao, the only living being present. How could Zhu Yao have the mood to care about it now? She immediately turned her head and scolded. Shut up. When her words fell, a bolt of heavenly lightning struck straight over, emitting out a heaven-shaking boom. However, it did not strike the mystic beast. Instead, it struck the severed part of the sea beside it. In an instant, a large half of the sea dried up, and a large empty space appeared. Meow! The mystic beast seemed to have been frightened by this tyrannical and heaven-shattering strike, as even its cry had changed. It laid on the ground with its belly on the ground, shivering with its tail between its legs. Its two paws were hugging its head, and it no longer dared to raise its head to look at her. Zhu Yao no longer had the strength to care about this two-headed beast. Her consciousness had already begun to blur, and the spiritual energy in her body had already reached its limits. Her cultivation had directly charged up to the Azoth Paragon, and the spiritual energy was still rising crazily. Her golden core was unable to withstand such spiritual pressure, and had already shattered. She knew that the best way to preserve her life, right now, was to form her nascent soul. However, Mama's egg, she didn't even know how to form her nascent soul. Her master hadn't even taught her that yet. Hey, this was akin to a teacher telling her that she had finally skipped a grade and entered the high school she yearned for day and night. This was a university course. The hell, could her life not be so fucked up? Hence, she could only use her lightning spiritual energy to wrap around the rampaging metal spiritual energy with all her might. She watched as the two of them came into contact and slowly began to dissipate until the entire pillar of light was surrounded by white lightning. As though it had been blown away, the pillar of light, along with the chaotic lightning glow, disappeared without a trace. The surroundings were instantly silent. Zhu Yao fell onto the ground and had completely turned into a bloody person. She no longer had the ability to take in spiritual energy into her body. She was actually still alive. As expected, the heavens doted on the good. Even though she could not move, Zhu Yao wanted to silently give the heavens a thumbs up. Her entire body was like a pile of blood-stained mud as she looked at the metal spirit floating in the air. With a flash of light, it disappeared into the horizon. It seemed like it had returned to Xiao Yi's body. Zhu Yao felt that she should sleep for a few days and nights before she could recover. Suddenly, she heard a loud rumbling sound. Turning her head to look, she saw that the area in front of her right was beginning to collapse on a large scale. On the ground was a black region. She could not see it clearly at all, yet it looked like a gigantic black mouth, which was currently devouring this secret realm. Zhu Yao suddenly recalled the words of that shark man, severed lands. The hell? If she knew that she could survive, why did she act so arrogantly and forcefully send her master out earlier? Was it too late to regret now? Master, hurry and come back. Unfortunately, the truth had proven that even Ta Ba could not buy medicine for regret. The collapse in front of her spread all the way to where she was lying, and then she fell into a deep abyss. She continued to fall, yet she did not feel any pain. Zhu Yao could not help but feel a little fortunate. Fortunately, she had only fallen off a cliff. At the very most, she would only be missing an arm or a leg. According to the law of not dying after falling off a cliff, at the very least, she was still alive. Just as she was pondering, suddenly, a familiar conversation window popped up in front of her, and it was written neatly, "Congratulations, you have died thoroughly again. It's time for you to be reborn. Please choose, yes or yes." Huh, this is a scam. What happened to the promised law of not dying after falling off a cliff? This old lady is not dead yet. This old lady is still alive, and I'm still breathing. However, that conversation window completely ignored her protests and began to crazily spam in front of her eyes. Anger. In order to avoid a tragedy like the previous time, Zhu Yao decided to close her eyes. But why the hell would it spam in her mind? Not choosing. This old lady is not choosing. Even when the conversation window had already filled her eyes, Zhu Yao still did not have the intention to choose. That crazily spamming conversation window finally stopped. And then, a row of red warning words with an exclamation mark appeared. Time limit exceeded. Will be automatically chosen randomly. Countdown. 10 seconds. 9, 8, 7. The hell? What happened to the promised humanity? Do you believe I won't ask about your household registration book? 321 inches. The next second, Zhu Yao once again saw that bastard loading bar. The protagonist Zhu Yao was killed. Books finished. Your sister? Flips table. When she once again saw light, the first thing Zhu Yao did was to inspect her own body. Very good, long arms and legs, very normal, not an infant. Her mouth did not have any suspicious objects stuffed in it either. She looked around for objects that could reflect light, and coincidentally, there was a clean, smooth, and even shining rock in front of her. Zhu Yao immediately walked over, and with the help of the reflection, she took a closer look. Very good, very complete. Inside, there was a very proper young lady dressed in a navy blue gown. Her hair was not very long, yet it was neatly coiled on top of her head. Her facial features were filled with heroic spirit, and most importantly, her height was about 1.7 meters. As someone who had been a little dwarf for several decades, Zhu Yao expressed her satisfaction. The only flaw was she was still flat-chested. Touching her chest, it was even flatter than the little steamed buns from before. Zhu Yao silently retorted if it was because she had used all of her nutrition to grow taller, which was why she was so flat. Little brother, may I ask if Ancient Hill Sect is written here? Just as she was inspecting her new body, a young man suddenly popped out from the side and patted on her shoulder. Of course not. Ancient Hill Sect is. Zhu Yao said as she raised her head. However, she was blocked by the 3 large words on the rock. The hell, it really was Ancient Hill Sect. Little brother? That young man saw that she was stunned and could not help but pat on her shoulder again. I'm sorry. I'm a wandering practitioner, and I'm not very literate. Just when I was about to rely on Ancient Hill Sect, I heard that there's a teleportation formation here. So I came over to take a look. Little brother, help me take a look and see if it's really here? It's here. Zhu Yao wiped off the cold sweat on her forehead. She never expected that she had reincarnated to her own doorstep. Thank you, little brother. The young man returned his greeting, and then he walked to the right side of the rock. The formation lit up, and his figure began to fade. However, he did not forget to bid farewell to her. Little brother, farewell. Chapter 62. Zhu Yao sighed, and silently despised that person's gaze. How could he possibly think that she was a man? Her hands unconsciously tidied up her clothes, yet she felt that there was something extra on her legs. She suddenly had a bad premonition. She turned around and silently pulled open her pants. No, no, no. The way she pulled open her pants must be wrong. How could there be an extra organ on her body? Again. Pull it open again. Close. Her eyes must be playing tricks on her. She rubbed her eyes. Pull it open again. Close. Ah! Zhu Yao screamed out. This wasn't logical. Did the meaning of resurrecting next to a rock make it convenient for her to knock her head against it and die? Zhu Yao felt terrible, as she deeply felt the evil intentions of the entire world. You come out, let's talk about life. Chick. A green light flashed in front of her, and a green object jumped out. Zhu Yao looked at this potted plant that suddenly appeared in front of her, and it was even grown without soil. She was shocked. What kind of monster are you? That potted plant leaped forward, bent its little branches and rubbed against her legs. Chick. This familiar voice. You're a wood spirit? Chick. The potted plant nodded. Why are you here? And you even grew up suddenly? Zhu Yao stared at it a little shockingly. Back then, when it was in the box, it was still a tiny bean sprout, and it only had 2 leaves. Why did it suddenly turn into a potted plant? Chick, 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 chick. The wood spirit strongly waved its little branches, as though it was trying to explain something to her. Unfortunately, she did not understand a single word. Never mind, it's good that you're still alive. Back then, she anxiously placed it into her divine sense. She never expected that it would resurrect together with her. Zhu Yao stroked its little leaves. It couldn't really have grown into a tree, right? Chick. The wood spirit stretched out 2 little tree vines, which bent into 2 small arcs. Then it pieced them together, forming a heart shape. Was it giving her a like? Zhu Yao felt it was funny. She forcefully rubbed its little leaves, only to touch something wet and slippery. Meow. A small beast head popped out from the leaves. It had a green face and sharp fangs. It was actually that strange beast. Zhu Yao reflexively turned her touch into a slap, and sent a slap flying over. There was a loud smack. The exotic beast rolled a few dozen times, and was blown a few meters away, only stopping when it crashed into a tree trunk. Meow! The shrunken exotic beast crawled up with a wronged look, as if it was hurt from the fall, and limped towards her. Zhu Yao's heart clenched, as she activated all the defensive mechanisms in her body. She had not forgotten just how brutal this mystic beast was in the secret realm. Out of habit, he wanted to summon his flying sword, but he found that he had no spiritual power left in his body. The hell, the evil sequelae of rebirth. He turned around and picked up a stone beside him. She still had strength. Don't come over. If you go any further, I'll smash you to death. That strange beast was stunned, a pair of black eyes staring straight at her, looking at her. Then, a layer of mist slowly rose up, as if she was going to cry in the next second. Zhu Yao, who was hugging the rock. Hey, you're the bully. What are you trying to do? Woo woo wah 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 wah. Sure enough, the exotic beast laid down on the ground, kicking its 4 paws. He began to cry loudly. Wow. Don't cry. Wow wow wow. I won't hit you anymore. Wah. I really won't smash it, okay? Wah. That's enough. Wah. Shut up. The crying stopped. Zhu Yao felt her head aching when she insisted on being fierce. He walked over and squatted down beside the miniature exotic beast, poking its little head. Tell me, why are you here? Meow. Why are you following me? Meow. What do you want? Meow. Meow your head. Zhu Yao raised her hand and gave it a slap. You're still acting? Don't think I don't know you can speak. That old man in the secret realm had said that this guy came from the higher realm and was a demonic beast that did not possess the ability to transform. Demonic beasts could transform after reaching the 10th rank, and he was at least at the 11th rank. It was impossible for him to not know how to speak. The exotic beast used its 2 front paws to rub its head, which was slapped by her. It still looked at her with a pitiful look and weakly squeaked. It hurts. Zhu Yao's expression darkened. Cupping her fists, a cracking sound could be heard. She coldly laughed. Do you believe that I will make it hurt even more? The exotic beast's expression paled, and it immediately obediently squatted down. It fearfully glanced at her, and its little eyeballs rolled. I fell into the severed lands as well, that's why I'm here. Bullshit. Zhu Yao once again gave it a slap. There are so many things that fell into the severed lands. Why are you the only one that came? Do you think I'm stupid? It lowered its head, looking as though it was admitting its mistake. Before I fell, I hid in your divine sense as well, so. Zhu Yao frowned. That was possible. Back then, she only had a single breath left, and if someone took the opportunity to infiltrate her divine sense, it would be extremely easy. Then why did you become like this? When her words fell, the exotic beast grew even more pitiful. I don't know either. My cultivation is still here, but there isn't a single bit of spiritual energy in my body. That was because it had yet to be charged. Zhu Yao instantly understood its situation. It was the same as her, and it would be fine after being struck by lightning. Then why did you hide in the wood spirit? Zhu Yao continued to ask. Since you're already out, shouldn't you take the opportunity when I'm not paying attention and run as far away as possible? I want to follow you. The exotic beast scratched the ground a little embarrassedly. Why? You're very strong. Its eyes instantly widened, as though it had seen its idol. Its eyes were sparkling like stars. It had never seen anyone who could resurrect from the dead, not even in the higher realm. And at the moment she resurrected, it faintly smelled a strand of the heavenly Tao's aura. If I follow you, I will definitely be able to return to the higher realm even faster. I will help you, and I can even become your contracted beast. Zhu Yao replied with 2 words. Ho ho. No matter how friendly it appeared, it was after all a demonic beast. However, it was after all a demonic beast, and it had even made her an enemy before, fighting to the death. What was even more unforgivable was that it had even injured her master. This was simply too unforgivable. Goodbye. Don't go. The exotic beast was a little anxious, as it hugged onto her leg, and was being dragged forward. I'm very useful. I'm at the 11th rank. There are very few demonic beasts in this higher realm that can defeat me. Continue walking. My nose is sensitive. I can help you find spiritual herbs. No need. I can help you find spiritual artifacts. No need. I can even help you subdue demonic beasts. I don't care. I can even warm your bed. Scram! Zhu Yao felt that she was being pestered by that exotic beast. Wherever she went, it would follow. and as it followed, it would even let out extremely wronged cries. She could not be bothered with it either. In any case, it currently did not have any spiritual energy, so it was unable to harm her. Recalling the wood spirit back into her divine sense, Zhu Yao planned to return to Jade Forest Mountain first. At the very least, she had to report to her master that she was safe. According to his previous experience, another 100 years had passed. The last time she was killed by the demonic fox, her master was furious, but destroying the entire secluded melancholy forest. This time she forcefully sent her Shifu out of Taesioluk. He might get even angrier. What worried her even more was Wang Shuji. That brat had always been impulsive. He did not care about the consequences. She was afraid that if she did not keep an eye on him, he would run to Xiao Yi and court death. The more she thought about it, the more worried she became. After inspecting her surroundings, this place should be a teleportation formation, set up by the sect in various places. And it was actually very far away from Ancient Hill Sect. Glancing at the boulder that had the 3 large words, Ancient Hill Sect, written on it, he walked into the teleportation formation at the side. A bright light flashed. She had already arrived at an island, and there were several mountains floating in the sky above the island. It was a familiar sight to her. He was back. Zhu Yao raised her head and looked at the highest floating mountain peak. In an instant, she felt a sense of security, as though she wanted to immediately fly back and hug that stupid master of hers, who always cheated his disciple. So here's the problem. How was she going to get back? Her dantian was empty, and there was not even a single strand of spiritual energy. She was completely unable to fly. Raising her head, she looked at the disciples flying about in the sky. Zhu Yao was deeply saddened, hoping that one of the disciples would notice her, bring her up the mountain, and then find a chance to return to Jade Forest Mountain. However, after waiting for a long while, there were many people flying about in the sky, yet, not a single one of them glanced at this little island. Every single one of them came in a hurry, and left in a hurry as well, especially the one who flew especially fast. Seemingly in a flash, he disappeared without a trace. Even his figure could not be seen clearly, and with a swoosh he disappeared. And with another swoosh he returned. The hell, he really returned. A white figure flashed, and a figure dressed in a snow-white robe stopped in front of her. His face, which looked as though it was covered with 1,000-year-old ice, was emitting a cold aura, as though if she were to approach him, she would be frozen. Yu Yan stared straight at the unfamiliar youth in front of him, and did not speak for a long while. Disciple? No, wait, why was he a man? However, he clearly had a strand of his divine senses aura on him. That disciple of his had always been stupid, and was even good at courting death in various ways. He might just be pretending. Master. Zhu Yao was so touched that she was about to cry. As expected, her master was still reliable. He had once again come to pick her up and bring her back. Her voice choked, and just as she was about to rush forward and hug his thigh or something. Master! Before she could even finish, Yu Yan suddenly took a few quick steps forward, and stood a step away from Zhu Yao. Slowly, he reached out his hand and pulled her collar. Voila, he pulled it open. His movements were clean, and without the slightest hesitation. Zhu Yao's shirt was pulled open. Flat? Yu Yan was a little conflicted. His eyes scanned her chest a few times, and then he slowly shifted his line of sight to her lower body. Zhu Yao reflexively, tightly grabbed onto her own pants and screamed out. If you dare to pull my pants, I will dare to betray my master and destroy my ancestors. Even if she had turned into a man, there was no need to strip her naked the moment they met, right? Chapter 63. Yu Wang. Fuck your sister. It seems I'm right. Yu Yan heaved a sigh of relief. Zhu Yao's expression instantly darkened. Was there a need to use this kind of method to recognize her? Let's return. Yu Yan sighed. Picking up his disciple, he flew up. In an instant, the two of them returned to the peak of Jade Forest Mountain. He looked at his disciple's new appearance from top to bottom. He could not accept it no matter what. She had actually turned into a man. His heart was filled with all sorts of unknown entanglements. Why did it become like this? Zhu Yao shook her head. I don't know either. I fell into the severed grounds, and after I woke up, I became like this? Master, we can't be each other's best friends anymore. I wonder if you need gay friends? Severed land? Yu Yan's brows furrowed even tighter, recalling everything that happened in the secret realm. The flames of fury in the depths of his heart could not be suppressed, and the cold aura around his body became even more obvious. Zhu Yao could not help but feel a chill down her spine. Her master looked so scary. Was he about to flip out? He silently took a step back. He took another step back. Disobeying master's orders and acting recklessly, you deserve to be punished. Zhu Yao's little heart trembled. Can we agree not to hit your face? Come here. Master. Yu Yan did not speak, however. The cold aura emitted from his body became even more fervent. It seemed like she would not be able to escape. Zhu Yao had no choice but to slowly move over and reach out her left hand, as if she was facing death. Hit him, as long as you don't hit his face. Yu Yan was startled for a moment. Looking at the claw in front of him, his brows furrowed. With a wave of his hand, he moved a piece of rock over and sat on it. Then, he pulled his disciple's hand and pressed her entire body onto his thighs. He aimed at a certain part of the body and smacked it a few times. Fuck, why did it have to be spanked? Zhu Yao wanted to cry, but no tears came out. Yet he did not hold back at all, causing her to grimace in pain. Ouch, stop. Master, I was wrong. If she continued, her butt would blossom. Yu Yan paused for a moment, hesitating if the strength of his punishment was sufficient. Oh! Roar at the crucial moment. That mystic beast appeared out of nowhere and began to roar at Yu Yan without any regard for its own strength. With a raise of his hand, Yu Yan sent a slap over, and the mystic beast was instantly sent flying several tens of meters away. He crashed into the tree again. It climbed up miserably. They were indeed master and disciple. Even their attacks were the same. This demonic beast. Yu Yan recognized this demonic beast as well. Holding on to his disciple, he protected her behind him. And just as he was about to make his move, a certain exotic beast was hurt from the fall. He held, "Wah, master is bullying me. He bullied me as well." Zhu Yao rubbed her buttocks and gave it a helpless expression. Master, that master was really ruthless. Her buttocks were about to split into 4 pieces. You subdued this mystic beast? Yu Yan turned to look at his disciple. Zhu Yao shook her head. No, it wanted to follow me on its own. Yu Yan's expression instantly turned cold. Reaching out his hand, he was about to summon lightning, and that mystic beast trembled in fear. It covered its head with its paws and shouted pitifully, I'm her beast. Zhu Yao glanced at it in disdain. In any case, it was an 11th tier demonic beast. Did it have to be so timid? Seeing that she didn't respond, the strange beast became even sadder, crying and rolling on the ground. Woo, you even know my real name, but you still don't admit that I'm your beast. Bad person, Woo. I don't care. I want to be your beast. Zhu Yao was speechless. She had almost replied with, I don't want to be your main character. It's one thing to turn into a man, but do you have to walk the route of a lady boy? When did I know your real name? She was straight. The mystic beast instantly jumped up and replied with a stern look. Back in the secret realm, didn't you call me by my name? You even told me to open the door. Opening the door, Zhu Yao was startled for a moment. Suddenly, she recalled that hilarious password, and the corner of her lips twitched. You can't be called Sesame, right? The mystic beast tilted its head. That's right. The hell? Do your parents know that you gave yourself such a casual name? Although a real name is very restrictive to demonic beasts, it's only for demonic beasts that are below the 10th rank. Yu Yan's expression turned cold. For you to follow my disciple, just what is your goal? The mystic beast Sesame's expression stiffened for an instant, however. It immediately returned to its earlier shameless look, and said with an even more pitiful tone. Naturally, it's because Mistress is very strong. By following her, I can return to the higher realm even faster. With a wave of his hand, Yu Yan summoned a bolt of lightning, and it struck right next to it. In an instant, a large crater was formed, and his expression turned even colder. Speak the truth. I am speaking the truth. Boom! Another bolt of lightning struck out, and this time, it directly struck its tail. That long tail was instantly sliced into two. My tail! Sesame cried out in pain. It turned around to hug its tail that was missing half of its body. However, its feet slipped, and it rolled into the large crater earlier. Its entire body was covered in mud. It finally managed to stop. Turning around, it looked at the half of its tail that was still dripping with blood. Baring its teeth, it roared out and pounced towards Yu Yan without a care. I'm going to fight you to the death. Zhu Yao raised her hand and slapped it, sending it flying again. Hearing her master's words, she had come to a realization as well. The reason it followed her was definitely not as simple as ascension. Yu Yan cast an art, and Sesame, who was still constantly struggling, was fixed on the spot. Zhu Yao walked over and slapped on its beastly head. Speak, what's your goal? 11th ranked demonic beasts can undergo the ascension lightning tribulation, so they basically don't have to rely on others to ascend. Sesame paused for a moment, and then angrily refuted. Demonic beasts have a slim chance of surviving a heavenly tribulation. Lightning naturally counters us demonic beasts, let alone the ascension lightning tribulation. I will be struck to death. Yu Yan narrowed his eyes and coldly said, other demonic beasts might, but you, it's impossible. Sesame was startled and instantly stopped struggling. Zhu Yao suddenly recalled that the old man had once said that Sesame was a mystic beast that descended from the higher realm. In other words, it had once undergone the ascension tribulation and had survived to the higher realm. Then, even if it were to fall into the lower realm and undergo another lightning tribulation, its life would not be in danger at all. When she thought of this, Zhu Yao silently stood up and took a step back. Little animals were too smart. Humans needed to supplement their intelligence. Sesame glanced back and forth between the two of them. Most likely, it felt that it could not hide it any longer, as it instantly retracted that cute and pitiful expression it had earlier. Its voice carried a hint of provocation. Humph. I never expected that I would be seen through. As expected of a demigod stage old demon. Old demon? Yu Yan frowned and replied. Same here. If a demigod stage was considered old, then as a demonic beast that had ascended for God knows how many years, it was already as old as the sky. He turned to look at his own disciple. Amen, he wasn't old at all. Sesame's expression stiffened, and it once again began to gnash its teeth. Taking a deep breath, it endured it and slowly said, Indeed, I can ascend. However, I caused some trouble in the higher realm earlier, and it's not convenient for me to expose myself. So, I wish to wait for the little lady. Wait for the lad to ascend, and then return in the name of a contracted beast, so as to prevent others from discovering me. What's with that pause, hey? Why me? If it was just to find someone to bring it up, wouldn't her master be faster? Because you're easy to deceive. Pa. Zhu Yao raised her hand and gave it another slap. The hell? Why did she feel that people who spoke the truth deserved a beating? Don't hit me, don't hit me. Sesame dodged her hand pathetically and explained. He explained, I wasn't lying to you when I told you before. The reason why I'm following you is because you're really strong, and you have a huge opportunity that normal people do not possess. Huge opportunity. Why didn't she know about it? Other than dying very easily, did she have any other opportunities? Even if my disciple can ascend. Yu Yan took a step forward. There's no need for her to take this risk, offending a deity of the higher realm the moment she ascends. Only then did Zhu Yao realize. The hell? This Sesame was clearly using her as a shield. But before that, I will use all my strength to help her ascend. Sesame glanced at Yu Yan. Furthermore, even if I wish to stay here, you can't do anything to me. Yu Yan's expression sank, and killing intent instantly filled the surroundings. Sesame, however, completely did not mind, and continued to provoke. You're right. The reason why I'm like this is because my body doesn't have any spiritual energy. As long as I absorb spiritual energy into my body to replenish my spiritual energy, I will naturally be able to return to my previous state. Earlier, I have already tried and recovered a little of my spiritual energy. You won't be able to kill me. absorb spiritual energy into her body. Zhu Yao was startled for a moment. Wasn't she going to be struck by lightning? Wait a minute. Back then, her master said that the lightning had coincidentally replenished the spiritual energy in her body. Hence, she was able to recover her cultivation. So, as long as she replenished her spiritual energy, she did not have to be struck by lightning. She really wanted to cry for her own intelligence. Yu Yan turned silent and clenched his fists. Although it was impossible for him to lose, this place was not Taesioluk's secret realm. If they were to fight, the entire ancient hill sect might be implicated. However, he simply could not feel at ease leaving such a threat by his disciple's side. Set a life and death contract. All right. Seeing that he was willing to compromise, Sesame was overjoyed and agreed very happily. Closing its eyes, with its 4 paws on the ground, it circulated the last strand of spiritual energy in its body to summon its own inner core. A blue pearl flew out from its mouth and floated above its head. Sesame reached out its front paw and touched it. A hint of red flashed past the inner core, and a drop of red liquid separated out. This is the blood from my heart. Sesame turned to look at Yu Yan, and then kept its own inner core. Yu Yan opened his palm, and that drop of blood automatically flew towards him and floated above his palm. He turned to look at his disciple next to him. Stretch out your hand. Ah! Zhu Yao was a little dumbfounded. Yet, she still obediently stretched out her hand. What was he trying to do? Yu Yan reached out his hand and rolled up her sleeve, revealing her entire arm. Then he pressed the drop of blood in his hand onto her arm, and instantly, a red dot appeared on her arm. It was bright red and glistening. Why did she feel a sense of déjà vu? Sesame was a little dissatisfied. Clearly, the life and death contract was pointed at the center of his brows. So why did he have to press it onto his arm? Recalling that the other party was his mistress's master, he endured it. All right, from now on I'm yours. Sesame rolled on the ground, and once again returned to that infuriating look from before. You have to treat me well. She really wanted to beat someone up. Mistress, I'm going to recover my spiritual energy first. You have to miss me, all right? After saying that, it leaped up, picked up the half of its tail that was chopped off earlier, and hopped away. Zhu Yao, that just what in the world happened? Can someone explain? This is a blood contract. Yu Yan let go of her sleeve as he explained. As long as this contract exists, if you are injured, the same injury will appear on the contractor's body as well. It's a contract of mutual death between demonic beasts. Even if I'm injured, it will be injured as well. Then if it were to injure me, would it? It won't. In other words, it was a one-sided suppression? Then what if I die? She recalled something. Naturally, it will die as well. Yu Yan calmly replied. The corner of Zhu Yao's lips twitched. She awkwardly stretched out 2 fingers. Master, I've already died twice. You won't. Yu Yan's expression grew even calmer. Reaching out his hand, he stroked her head. Let's return to the house. I'll help you check on your injuries. Master, is it really all right for you to change the topic like this? You've clearly tricked that mystic beast, right? Also, how can you tell that I'm injured? There's completely no need to check on me, right? P.S. Thanks to Shauna0912's relative for gifting Heshibi. I saw it when I came out of the little black room. I hope it's not too late. Chapter 64. A few minutes later, Zhu Yao finally understood just how necessary the inspection was. Your Azoth core has shattered. Yu Yan retracted the divine sense he had sent into his disciple's Dantian. His face was solemn. Then shouldn't I be done for if my core shattered? Although your core has shattered, your realm is still at the Azoth Paragon level. Yu Yan deeply frowned. It's a little similar to a shattered core before forming one's nascent soul. However, because there's no spiritual energy, there are no signs of forming one's nascent soul at all. Master, you mean to say that I'm stuck? Yu Yan nodded. The hell, when others form their nascent soul, they either die when their core is destroyed, or they raise their cultivation through victory. Why was she stuck in the middle? In this period of time, do not take in spiritual energy without permission, and recover your cultivation. Yu Yan instructed with a stern look. What happens when I recover my cultivation? If there's spiritual energy in your body, you will definitely forcefully form your nascent soul. At that time, you will definitely lack spiritual energy, and if you take in spiritual energy into your body, it will cause the spiritual energy to go berserk. If you don't take in spiritual energy, your nascent soul will fail. At that time, her core would really be destroyed and she would die. Then what should I do? Zhu Yao wanted to cry. She had cultivation, but she did not have spiritual energy. Was she going to quietly become a cripple from now on? No need to worry. Yu Yan stroked her head. Wait until you find a place with sufficient lightning spiritual energy. Then you can directly form your nascent soul. Although he said that, Zhu Yao knew that the situation was not optimistic. The spiritual energy in this world had a certain pattern. For example, places near water were abundant with water spiritual energy, forests were abundant with wood spiritual energy, volcanoes were abundant with fire spiritual energy, mines were abundant with metal spiritual energy, and earth spiritual energy was everywhere. However, he just had to be a lightning spirit vein holder, and she had never found a place with sufficient lightning spiritual energy. Finding such a place was simply a fantasy. Of course, other than this method, there were other ways. For example, Xiao Yi's metal spirit. As long as he wished for it, all of the metal spiritual energy in the world would be used by him. However, in this world, there were all 5 types of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth spirits. Yet there was no lightning spirit. This was a completely ridiculous setting. Rar. As if sensing her downcast mood, the wood spirit jumped out of her divine sense. It stretched out its hand and wrapped a soft green vine around her wrist as if comforting her. Chick, this is a wood spirit? Yu Yan looked at the little sapling that suddenly popped out. Only then did Zhu Yao realize that she had never told her master about the wood spirit. I encountered it in Tasioluk. Back then, it and Sesame were both hiding in my divine sense, and after I revived, they came over as well. Yes. Yu Yan nodded. Actually, he had guessed a few things as well. His disciple had changed her appearance. Yet, that mystic beast was able to instantly appear by her side. He must have followed her here. If he had hidden in her divine sense at that time, everything would have been easily explained. Master, I have something to tell you. Zhu Yao pondered for a moment and decided to explain everything clearly to her master. Hiding things from him would always make her feel a deep sense of guilt and self-blame. Furthermore, it wasn't like she had anything to hide, so why couldn't she say it out loud? Actually, I'm not someone from this world. Oh, Yu Yan lightly replied. Oh, that's it. This reaction wasn't right. Master, I'm saying that I'm not someone from the cultivation world. I come from another world, a place completely different from this one. I know. What do you know? When did you find out? Yu Yan tilted his head and pondered for a moment, before replying. From the first day you came up the mountain. The hell? Zhu Yao could not help but curse out. What the hell was this? Then why the hell was she so nervous earlier? Your words and actions are different from normal people. Yu Yan analyzed indifferently. At that time, I guessed that you came from some unknown place, and later on, you had an extraordinary affinity with lightning spiritual energy. I was even more certain. Not to mention that you were reborn twice. Why did she feel that she was the only idiot in the entire world? Resentment. He raised his head and shot a resentful light wave at a certain master. Yu Yan still calmly and persistently messed up her hair. Anything else? Don't talk to her, she's very sad. Her IQ was low. Although I know about this, I can't tell anyone else. Do you understand? Of course. I'm not. Oh no, why did she suspect that she was really stupid? A certain master continued to stroke his head. Zhu Yao might as well tell him everything that had happened in one go. From the start of her work in the modern world, to the various abnormalities after she transmigrated. However, there was a generation gap between them, and it was really a strenuous task to fill in the gaps. Hence, the main point had completely gone off track. What's a computer? A computing tool. The people of your world don't know how to count? No, it's just faster to use a computer. What's a button? It's QQ, a tool for chatting. You guys need to use a tool to chat. Are you born handicapped? No, it's just that you can use long-distance communication. Sound transmission talisman? That's right. Then what's an online game? A type of recreational game that allows people from all over the world to play online at the same time. Online? A game that's connected by a thread? Thread is just a metaphor. In summary, it means that without stepping out of your house, you can play the same game with people from all over the world. Large-scale sound transmission talisman? Amen, something like that. The people of your world spent so much effort to create such a large sound transmission talisman. Just for a game to pass time? Yuyan glanced at her indifferently and gave her an expression that said, "Did you guys have a hole in your head?" What to do? Why did she feel that the people of her world were so boring as well? Master, how's Wang Xuji? Zhu Yao decided to change the topic. She was really worried that little wimp would do something foolish again when she was not around. The hand on her head paused, and a certain master's expression sank. Taesioluk has already closed. He's naturally on his way back. Taesioluk? Zhu Yao was a little shocked. Shouldn't it only open once every 500 years? Could it be that she spent 500 years in this resurrection? When did he leave? Yuyan looked at her strangely. He's naturally going with you. Together with me. Zhu Yao was startled. She suddenly had a guess. Then Master went to. The half of the divine sense I left behind for you was forcefully ejected out of Taesioluk. Yuyan still looked at her with a little anger. That's why I decided to rush over to take a look. I never expected that the moment I left Jade Forest Mountain, I would sense that you were on that island. You wanted to rush over to save her, right? I was wrong. Zhu Yao hurriedly admitted her mistake. When she recalled the punishment earlier, her buttocks ached. In the depths of her heart, she was a little touched. But more than that, she was happy. She did not expect that her resurrection this time would be so timely. And there was basically no time difference at all. Yuyan stood up. Walking a few steps away, he reached out his hand and chanted an incantation. A moment later, a white light flashed, and a white jade pendant lay on his palm. It was the jade pendant that his divine sense was hiding in Taesioluk. Since his disciple had already returned, naturally, there was no longer a need for his divine sense to remain outside. He clenched his fist, and the jade pendant was instantly crushed. A white light floated out and slowly returned to his body. Zhu Yao stepped forward to take a look, and did not notice anything different. Initially, she still wanted to learn this sort of cloning technique, but her master did not seem to have any intentions of teaching her at all. He explained the situation of forming a nascent soul in detail, the various methods and experiences to deal with it. She pondered for a moment. Then, he explained the various symptoms of a demigod as well. Although it would take at least 1,000 years to reach a demigod from a nascent soul cultivator, this disciple of his had always skipped levels. A month ago, she had just stabilized her early-stage Azoth core. And now, she was about to form her nascent soul. It was better for him to make preparations early for such a speed of skipping 3 levels. Zhu Yao felt a little dizzy from listening to it. The so-called nascent soul her master spoke of was actually using spiritual energy to train her divine sense, until her divine sense became even more condensed, to the point where it could leave the body's limits. Her master's divine sense clone. Actually, it was the result of one's divine sense refinement. Back then, when she stopped the metal spirit in Taesioluk, it triggered a spiritual energy riot. The sudden surge of spiritual energy instantly shattered her metal spirit. Yet, she still did not form her nascent soul. So it was because she did not guide the spiritual energy towards her divine sense. As expected, there was a mistake in the method of operation. Divine sense was the most important part of a person, and it was equivalent to the existence of the soul. It could be imagined just how much pain one had to endure to train their divine sense. Zhu Yao silently lit a candle for herself who was about to form her nascent soul. Her master's explanation lasted all the way until the evening before he released her. As someone who did not have the ability to resist, she was naturally confined by her master. This time she did it voluntarily. She did not know where Sesame ran off to either, as it had never returned. Just when she was about to return to sleep, she suddenly heard a familiar voice transmission. Sword Mountain's Wang Shuji requests an audience with ancestral grand uncle. Little Wimp had returned. Before waiting for the person in the house to reply, Wang Shuji, who was dressed in the sect's uniform, flew down. His figure was a little disheveled, and there were even bloodstains that he did not manage to clean up in time on his clothes. His hair was a mess, and the only thing missing was the word exhausted written on his face. However, his pair of eyes were staring at Yu Yan with exceptional vigor. This disciple greets ancestral grand uncle. Wang Shuji bowed towards Yu Yan. Yu Yan frowned. Evidently he was a little impatient. He sat down on the stone chair in the courtyard, and then lightly nodded. Wang Shuji glanced at Zhu Yao at the side, and suppressed the curiosity in his heart. This disciple has something to ask ancestral grand uncle. I hope ancestral grand uncle can resolve this disciple's doubts. Yu Yan did not reply, and did not even cast his gaze over. He had always been impatient with others. Wang Shuji had no choice but to grit his teeth and continue asking. This disciple wishes to know if the little bun that ancestral grand uncle brought back 10 years ago and took in as a disciple, was that your previous personal succeeding disciple, Zhu Yao? Zhu Yao was startled. It seemed like the way she addressed him at the end in Tasialuk had been exposed. Fortunately, she had changed her avatar again. I hope ancestral grand uncle can tell this disciple the truth. Yu Yan raised his head and lightly glanced at him. He replied with a tone that was asking for a beating. What does it have to do with you? As expected, other people's disciples were the most annoying. Wang Shuji choked. A hint of anger surfaced on his face, yet he could not flare up. Gritting his teeth, he took a deep breath. This disciple simply wishes to inform ancestral grand uncle that your second disciple is currently trapped in the Tasialuk secret realm. I hope ancestral grand uncle can lend a helping hand and tell this disciple if there are any other methods to enter? Yu Yan did not reply, and simply slowly turned his head to glare at Zhu Yao. The surrounding crowd was innocent. Chapter 65. Ahem. Zhu Yao had no choice but to stand out. This little brother, that Tasialuk secret realm only opens once every 500 years. If you don't come out in time, you will have to wait another 500 years for the entrance to open. Furthermore, practitioners above the nascent soul stage are unable to enter. Aren't you making things difficult for me by saying that? Wang Shuji clenched his fists, as though he was suppressing something with all his might. He completely ignored her, and after a while, he cupped his fists and said to Yu Yan, if that's the case, please forgive this disciple for offending you. This disciple is here to confirm if Big Sis Zhu Yao has returned. Looking at it now, ancestral grand uncle actually doesn't have the method to enter the secret realm. Then, I will search for it myself. This disciple will take his leave. As though he had decided on something, his expression grew even more determined. Without the slightest hesitation, he turned around and left. Zhu Yao's heart trembled when she saw his expression. This little wimp couldn't possibly be thinking of forcefully barging into Tasialuk, right? The barrier outside the secret realm could even block a demigod stage practitioner. If an Azoth practitioner like him were to forcefully barge in, his body would probably shatter into pieces. Suddenly, she had a bad premonition, and the words to stop him blurted out just like that. Little wimp, come back here. Just as he was about to leave, he suddenly turned his head back. With widened eyes, he looked at her with a look of disbelief. Is it too late to regret now? Big sis. Zhu Yao. As expected, it was too late. A certain master turned his head as well, and cast a scornful look at her. He shook his head with an exasperated look. Why couldn't she change her bad habit of having a cheap mouth? Big sis Zhu Yao, why are you? Wang Shuji sprinted back like a gust of wind, and scanned her from head to toe. Don't ask me, I want some peace and quiet. If you want to ask who peace and quiet are, I will beat you to death. Wang Shuji's eyes were fixed on her chest, and he raised his hand, wanting to press on it. Zhu Yao slapped away his hand, and then, she raised her hand, and gave him a pot sticker on the back of his head. Stinking brat, what are you doing? No, that's not it. I'm just Big Sis Zhu Yao. Why did you become? Probably because the impact of the truth was too great, Wang Shuji began to ramble. Wasn't it just a change of avatar? Was it so hard to accept? The more Wang Shuji spoke, the more confused and anxious she became. I couldn't find you in the mystic realm. After I came out, I couldn't find you. You're back, you're finally back. Why are you crying? I didn't. Wang Shuji rubbed her eyes fiercely and said this sentence very smoothly. You're still denying it? Looking at this young man, whose words were getting more and more chaotic the more he spoke, Zhu Yao's heart ached a little. I'm fine. I'm the undying Vajra. I just changed my appearance. She rubbed the back of her head that she had hit earlier. So little wimp had actually gone in to look for her. At least you have a conscience. You didn't dote on me for so many years in vain. Style? Then big sis Zhu Yao is really. Yes, I am a man. Wang Shuji widened her eyes and pointed at her with a trembling finger. Zhu Yao patted on his shoulders, and the thought of bullying him once again surfaced in the depths of her heart. I'm a man now. Will you despise me? Of course not. Wang Shuji replied loudly. You're still the best. Zhu Yao pretended to be moved. Wiping the corner of her eyes, she threw him a coquettish glance. Little wimp, do you still remember what you said when you were young? You'll definitely marry me. I feel that we've both grown up, and it's time to fulfill your promise. Marry me then. If not, I can marry you too. Wang Shuji suddenly took a step back. He looked at her with a conflicted expression. His expression changed from red to white, and then to green. It was so interesting that people could not shift their eyes away. Enough. As though he could not stand their cloying expressions of searching for a relative from 1,000 miles away. A certain master expressed his displeasure, as he coldly glared at Wang Shuji. You trespassed into Jade Forest Mountain, so I won't bicker with you about this matter. Go. Other people's disciples hurry and scram. Don't lead my own disciple astray. Wang Shuji glanced at Zhu Yao. His expression was conflicted for a moment. As though he had encountered a huge problem, he wanted to leave, yet he was reluctant to do so. If there's a chance in the future, I will tell you in detail. Zhu Yao narrowed her eyes, leaned close to his ears, and enunciated word by word. Our marriage. With a turn of his feet, he left Jade Forest Mountain as though he was flying. Zhu Yao laughed to the point her stomach was hurting. He really couldn't take fright. Was it that unacceptable to turn into a man? Look at how calm her master was. Not only did he not despise her, he even stripped her the moment he arrived. No. It didn't seem like something worth being happy about. On the second day after her return, a certain master, in order to prevent other people's disciples from suddenly barging in and leading his own disciple astray, secretly activated the formations of Jade Forest Mountain. Wang Shuji was completely unable to enter, and Zhu Yao's only source of entertainment was gone as well. However, the heavens seemed to be purposely not allowing her to stay idle. Early in the morning, she felt a little strange. The skies of the entire ancient hill sect were a little gloomy, as though a storm was about to arrive. Even the celestial cranes on Jade Forest Mountain began to cry out, as though they were convulsing. It was as though something had triggered their uneasiness. The air was suffocating, and Zhu Yao felt a strange fluster. She kept feeling that something was about to happen. Raising her head to look at the sky, she saw dark clouds rolling, as though something was brewing within the clouds. Logically speaking, Ancient Hill Sect was a blessed land, and spring had always been bright and beautiful. It was really rare to see such a large area of gloomy weather. The more Zhu Yao stared at the clouds, the more her heart felt stuffy. She kept feeling that there was something there, something that made her feel very close to it. Someone is forming his nascent soul. Yu Yen frowned as he looked at the rolling lightning clouds in the sky. Such a powerful heavenly might. It seems like a lightning tribulation will descend soon. Lightning tribulation? Could it be Xiaoyi? However, he had just formed his Azoth core earlier. Even if he concealed his own cultivation, it was impossible for him to reach the Azoth Paragon level in a month, unless Zhu Yao suddenly recalled the rampaging metal spirit. Although the metal spirit had stopped rampaging, it still absorbed a large amount of metal spiritual energy. If it were to return to Xiao Yi's side just like that, it was not impossible for him to form his nascent soul immediately. The one forming his nascent soul was really him? Zhu Yao instantly felt a little sullen. It was as though she had unknowingly helped him. Raising her head, she looked at the dark clouds. She suddenly recalled the time when Xiao Yi formed his Azoth core, and jokingly said, "Master, do you think the heavenly lightning tribulation this time, will it strike us again?" Yu Yan was startled. As though he had thought of something, he suddenly turned his head to look at his own disciple, and his eyes instantly shone. "Master, what's going on? Follow me." Yu Yan summoned his flying sword with a wave of his hand, and turned to look at his stupid disciple, who still did not understand what was going on. As though he despised her slow movements, he grabbed onto his disciple's collar and flew up. His figure flashed, and he flew towards the east. "Master, let's talk nicely. Was there a need for him to carry her?" Yu Yan did not speak. Instead, he flew straight to the very edge of the tribulation clouds, and stopped on a small island far away from ancient hill sect. Placing Zhu Yao down, he did not explain, and like a hard-working little bee, he began to set up various formations around the island. Although Zhu Yao was not very familiar with formations, she could still faintly tell that the formations he had set up were all concealment-type formations. "Master, give me an explanation first." 7 minutes later, Yu Yan finally stopped and threw down a bomb. "You will form your nascent soul here." What was going on? Forget about lightning spiritual energy on this island. Even the spiritual energy was very sparse. What kind of joke was this? Stupid. Yu Yan shook his head and pointed at the tribulation lightning in the sky. "Are you able to sense the lightning spiritual energy in between the lightning clouds?" Zhu Yao nodded. Not only could she sense it, she even had a feeling that the thing in the clouds really wanted to come over and take a look at her. Yet, it was being restrained by something. After the tribulation lightning descends, try your best to guide it to this island. "Master, you mean?" Zhu Yao finally understood. He meant for her to absorb the lightning spiritual energy in the tribulation lightning to form her nascent soul. Was there anything more abundant than the lightning spiritual energy in the tribulation lightning? Master was so smart. She gave her master a thumbs up. "I understand. Your master will naturally use the lightning guiding art to help you guide the tribulation lightning over. Focus on forming your nascent soul." Amen. Zhu Yao immediately sat in a lotus position, closed her eyes, and calmed her heart. Using her heart to sense the tribulation clouds, she could faintly see the flashes of light between the rolling clouds. The sky had already completely darkened. Suddenly, a thunderous rumble resounded, and a white bolt of lightning flashed between the clouds. Zhu Yao silently thought, "Hurry, hurry, hurry, hurry." That bolt of lightning, however, struck straight down. Just as it was about to strike the tribulation taker of Ancient Hill sect, it suddenly made a turn and struck straight towards the small island. Without any deviation, it struck Zhu Yao's body. A large amount of lightning spiritual energy instantly surged into Zhu Yao's body, and an indescribable pain engulfed her entire body. It was so painful that she could not even straighten her back, especially the position of her dantian, which felt as though it was being forcefully shattered. Only now did she truly feel what it meant to shatter a core. This pain was exactly the same as the pain she felt before her death in Tasioluk. After her resurrection, she did not have any spiritual energy, so naturally, she could not feel the pain of her core shattering. However, right now, it was as though the pain of her core shattering had suddenly reconnected. That pain, which felt as though her heart was being crushed, was almost unbearable. Calm your mind, guide spiritual energy into your divine sense. Yu Yan's words sounded. Zhu Yao instantly became much more clear-headed. Immediately, using all the energy in her body, she guided the lightning spiritual energy that was rampaging in her body and into her divine sense. However, what welcomed her was even greater pain. If the shattering of her core was said to be the pain in her body, then right now, it was the pain in her soul. Yet she was still unable to stop, and had no choice but to guide the spiritual energy to purify her own divine sense again and again. Zhu Yao even had the heart to curse out. Right now, it was definitely a miracle that she was still clear-headed. Just when she thought that she would be able to endure it, without her guidance, the second bolt of heavenly lightning still struck over, and the spiritual energy in her body skyrocketed. The hell did it have to be this fast? Zhu Yao had no choice but to crazily guide the lightning's spiritual energy into her divine sense, allowing the pain to intensify. Immediately after, the third bolt, the fourth bolt, and each bolt was stronger than the last. The tribulation lightning seemed to have grown eyes, as each bolt struck more smoothly than the last. In the end, they even skipped the step of making a turn in Ancient Hill Sect, as they struck straight towards her. That you're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.